All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this first of 3 candidate forums in advance of the endorsing caucus, February 20th to 22nd. Please note the disclaimer on the screen. This is an independent project, not an official CADEM event. This forum, we hope, is being live streamed. Hello to everybody out there on YouTube. Sorry for the delay. And it's to delegates up and down the state. I'm Pat Johnstone of Region 2. Hosting together today are Joanna Warrens, Region 1, monitoring the YouTube channel. Bless you, Joanna. Jeff Kurtzen, Region 3, is doing all the behind-the-scenes wizardry to keep the meeting running smoothly. Corey Allen, Region 20, will let candidates know when time is up and call on the next candidate. Chris Salazar, Region 15, and Melissa Ochoa, Region 11, will be asking the questions. One of the most important jobs we have as delegates is to make informed decisions when voting to endorse candidates. We thank the candidates for joining us and appreciate all the delegates taking their time this weekend to participate. So thank you and welcome, everyone. We will be starting with the insurance commissioner race. There will be a 2-minute open, a 2-minute close, and 90 seconds to respond to questions. You will see a timer on the top right of your screen. There'll be lovely music playing when your time is up, and you will be muted a few seconds after your time ends to keep this thing running smoothly. We will begin with opening statements. Again, this is the Office of Insurance Commissioner. And we will start with Patrick Wolf with a 2-minute intro.
Hi, thank you very much for organizing. I've done these Zoom things before. They're not easy, so really appreciate getting it going and organizing this for everybody. My name is Patrick Wolf. I'm running for insurance commissioner. I've lived with my wife in San Francisco for over 20 years. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm born, our kids are born and raised in San Francisco. For the last 10 years, I've been really deeply involved in state and local politics, but I'm not a professional politician, and I never expected to run for public office. When the fires happened in Southern California, because of my background, I was really drawn to the issue, and I saw how terribly our insurance system has been failing, not just the people of Southern California, but people throughout California. And I also really came to understand how important the role of insurance commissioner is. The thing about insurance commissioner that makes it somewhat different, I think, than other statewide offices, you absolutely have to be a champion for the customer, but you also need insurance and financial expertise. And that's something that I have because of my background, and it's why I put myself forward. Early in my career, from 2001 to 2005, I worked at a major bank where for 4 years, my job was to build a home and auto insurance brokerage business. And then for the last 20 years, I've worked as a financial analyst, analyzing and investing in companies and markets, including insurance. So I come to this role with deep insurance and financial expertise. I've published a detailed plan on my website. I published several op-eds describing how I would move us forward. I look forward to the back and forth here. And again, I just want to say thank you very much for organizing this. I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Patrick Wolf. Jane Kim, you are next with your 2-minute open.
Good morning. My name is Jane Kim, and I am running for insurance commissioner to take on this $3.3 trillion industry to make it work for us and not just these billionaire corporations. The premiums, as everyone knows, are too high. They're canceling our coverage. And even if we have insurance, they fight our claims every step of the way. Meanwhile, property insurance alone is making record profits, $170 billion last year, with just 10 CEOs, 10 individuals making $391 million in 1 year from our hard-earned paychecks. Meanwhile, we do a good job of regulating ourselves. We require us to have insurance to drive to work, to buy your first home, or open a small business. So for this very reason, insurance has to be affordable and available to everyone. Otherwise, we are shutting everyday people out of our economy. This is the state of today's insurance. It has failed us. But in the wealthiest state, in the wealthiest nation, we can do better. I'm running to make insurance affordable and accessible for everyone. And I won't take a dime from insurance companies because this race shouldn't be up to them. It's up to us. I will lower costs immediately by capping excessive profits and CEO pay, holding companies accountable for denying coverage or legitimate claims, and build a real public insurance program, one that we can actually afford, and then fight to guarantee healthcare coverage for every child in California. My entire career, I've been fighting for working families. I'm a civil rights attorney, organizer, and consumer advocate. And the last 5 years, I've crisscrossed this entire state, organizing voters to elect a government which actually represent us, as the California director of Working Families Party and the California political director for Bernie Sanders. I've also spent 12 years as an elected leader on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors and Board of Education, and I have a proven track record of tackling big ideas and big corporations and winning. Together, I worked with you to pass the first $15 minimum wage in the state
All right. Thank you.
and
That's
to
time.
negotiate record levels of affordable housing.
Thank you very much. Ben Allen, you are next with your 2-minute opening.
Well, thanks so much for having me and for this conversation. Thank you also to all of you who are working in the party right now during this really dangerous time for America's democracy. I am a lifelong Californian Democrat. I live in the LA area with my wife and my 2 young children, who are, I think, watching right now. And a lot of my friends and family are asking me, why are you running for insurance commissioner? And my answer goes back to just about this time last year, when I started getting text messages and frightened phone calls from constituents, folks who I'd been representing for years, who were being told that they had to evacuate from the fire zone within minutes. As the senator for major portions of last year's terrible fire zone, I got a front row seat to all of the dysfunction of the current insurance system. And my answer goes back to just, folks who had been dropped, folks who were paying more and more, who are now being nickeled and dimed by their insurers. And the whole thing was an awful experience of what so many of my friends and neighbors and constituents were going through. And that's what drove me to jump into this race. I've developed a really strong track record from my last 12 years in the state Senate. I've handled some of the most complex negotiations in the legislature, landing pro-consumer legislation, hospice reform, our plastics pollution law that took on the petrochemical interests, the CARS Act, which has been called one of the most comprehensive consumer protection reforms in the nation for car purchasers. I'm also someone who stood up to the insurance industry when it mattered. I authored a bill in the wake of the fires that forced an increase in the payouts that the insurance industry has to pay for contents coverage in the wake of total loss. The industry fought me, we pushed back, and we got a really meaningful bill through, forcing insurers to pay people promptly and fairly. As insurance commissioner, I want to work to stabilize the market without giving companies a blank check. I'm going to enforce strong post-disaster rules so that families and small businesses will get fair and timely claims. I want to push for full transparency in rate filings and climate risk monitoring and insurance decision-making so that the public knows what's driving costs. I entered this race as a great champion for consumers, for ethics, political reform, transparency. I've been ranked a California Clean Money champion and have had the highest clean money score in the legislature from the Clean Money campaign.
Thank you. That is time for your opening.
Thank you.
Awesome. And Stephen Bradford, you can come off mute for your 2-minute opening.
Hey, my fellow Democrats, thank you for this opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Steve Bradford, and I'm a candidate for insurance commissioner. And I didn't come to this decision easily. I was asked to run by my constituents, by my colleagues, by organized labor, by business, by all sorts of different organizations. I was initially a candidate 9 months ago for lieutenant governor, but I was heavily recruited for this job. I grew up in an insurance household. My father sold life insurance. So I understand how critically important it is to have coverage, whether it's for your home, your auto, life, you name it. We can't survive without it. And this industry needs to be stabilized. I've spent the last 26 years of my life, not as a politician, but as an elected public servant. That's what this is all about for me, doing the service. I will not be running for anything else after serving for insurance commissioner. This will not be a stepping stone to governor or anything else. I'm in this to do the work that's so critically needed at this time. I was honored to serve on the insurance commission, committee when I was in the assembly, and I authored one of the most impactful bills, uninsured and underinsured motorists. Many folks are unaware that you're woefully covered with underinsured or uninsured motorists. Many people think they're fully covered through that. You're not. So that was one of the biggest fights I had. We weren't successful in getting the language that we wanted, but we brought attention to this issue. That's what I will do. I will bring transparency to the insurance industry, holding them accountable, making sure that it's affordable, but also making sure that it makes sense. The insurance commissioner needs to be a watchdog, not a bystander of the industry, of the department. There's 1,400 people, and as well as for our consumer group. So that's who I am. That's what I will do, and I'll be ready to take on the action, the work that's needed.
Thank you.
We will now begin the question segment. Christine will begin the questioning. The questions will be asked verbally initially, but they'll also be in the chat, and you will have 90 seconds each to respond. Ms. Chris?
Thank you so much for joining us. First question is, California's insurance crisis has been described as primarily a regulatory failure, a climate failure, and an industry accountability failure. Which do you believe is the most accurate, and how do you plan to address it? We'll start off with Jane Kim.
Could you repeat the different choices? I'm sorry.
No problem. California's insurance crisis has been described as primarily a regulatory failure, a climate failure, and an industry accountability failure. Which do you believe is the most accurate, and how do you plan to address it?
I believe it's both a regulatory and a lack of accountability failure. The insurance industry is currently designed to be a profit-making industry. That's how it made record profits the last 3 years. They actually don't make money from our premiums. They invest our premiums in the stock market, and that's how they've been making record profits. What they do to lower risk is actually to drop, if you want to use a healthcare analogy, all the sick patients and the patients with pre-existing conditions. This is about a third of Californians that live in homes that are in quote unquote fire zones. What I'm proposing is that we look at a nonprofit public option, because the way that a state would reduce our risk is to actually invest in resiliency and infrastructure that makes us all safer from fires and floods and climate disasters that impacting more and more homes every day through no fault of the homeowner who lived in those geographies way before climate disaster started. So I'm proposing that we look at alternatives, because its current system doesn't work and it's too expensive. And we have to make insurance available to everyone because we require it. So we're literally shutting people out of the economy if we don't. But if we look at alternatives that like a nonprofit public option, then we're making sure that we're reducing risk by, again, investing in resiliency and climate change. There are also ways that we can better regulate the industry currently as is. For example, I'm proposing to freeze the rate when you file a claim. You should not be penalized for using insurance for the very thing you paid for.
Thank you. Ben Allen, you're next.
Yeah, it's clearly all three. It's regulatory, it's climate, it's accountability. Obviously, we need to go hard on accountability. We need an insurance commissioner who's looking out for consumers and is really strong about holding the industry accountable. We need to have strong regulations in place to protect consumers. We also, of course, have to recognize that one of the major factors in driving up rates is the climate crisis. The risk associated with fires, with sea level rise, with flooding, is spooking the reinsurance market, driving up costs, and making it increasingly difficult for us to manage the situation. And it's part of the reason why I've been so involved with climate efforts for so long. I mean, I was the author of Prop 4, the big bond that we all passed together, that overwhelmingly supported by the voters in the last election, that provides billions of dollars in investments in climate resiliency to help make our state better prepared, to reduce our wildfire risk, to build out our water infrastructure, to help with habitat and forest health. It's also why I'm running legislation right now to provide a low-interest loan program for folks to harden their homes. And we need to work with communities and push for policies that are going to help people focus on risk reduction in their neighborhoods and in their communities to make them less susceptible to terrible fires. And then we need an insurance commissioner who steps up and demands of the industry, says, look, we're making these investments in risk reduction. You need to step up and offer people real, affordable, available insurance. That's what this is all about, holding them accountable, but recognizing the massive risks that our state entails right now and fighting to protect our state from those risks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bradford?
I too believe it's all three. It's regulatory, it's climate, it's just oversight overall that needs to happen. One of the reasons that we're here is because Prop 103 has been working. It has suppressed rates for so long that now the market is trying to adjust. That's why we need to make sure that we have honest conversations with the insurance companies as well as consumers to understand that we're in California right now. We have the most expensive property homes in the nation, and prices have gone up on our homes, but the coverage for the insurance, many of these folks that were in the fires are grossly underinsured because they're not having the honest discussions with their insurance agents and their brokers to let them know that you need additional coverage. Many of them who have lived in their homes for 30 or 40 years, it was based on when they purchased their home. That's the level of coverage that they have. I've talked to insurance folks. I've talked to my neighbors, and that needs to have, we need to bring better transparency to the market as well. One of the things that we're not doing in California, well, we just started last year, is catastrophic modeling that every state was doing up until last year, other than Arkansas and California. California has now added that to bring complex computer data and science to the table to determine and predict not only natural disasters, but man-made disasters as well. Every state is using it. Now we're using it. We have to add that to the table as well.
Thank you. And Patrick Wolf, you'll have your 2 minutes or your 90 seconds as soon as it resets.
Just tell me when.
You're good to go.
All right, thanks so much. I love this question because you've really broken it out in a very nice way. Climate is what's happening in the world that's driving up risk and driving up cost. And accountability is about how the companies are behaving. But the regulatory aspect, that's what we control. And it's our job to set the regulations so that we meet the challenges in the world and so we control the actions of the insurance companies. We have not been doing the regulation right in California. We have been doing a bad job of holding insurance companies accountable, but paradoxically at the same time, making it way too difficult for insurance companies to come to do business in California. In my plan, I flipped the script. We do a much better job of holding insurance companies accountable. I'll give you one case in point. We have the data that shows how insurance companies have been behaving in their claims because it is super important. That's when the insurance policy really matters. But we've not been making that data public. We will make that data public when I'm insurance commissioner at the company level, and we'll provide it to customers so they can hold insurance companies accountable. But at the same time, we need to have way more choice and competition because empowering the customer only works when we have a robust market. And finally, dealing with climate change, the actions we need to take to harden our homes and address fire risk in our forests and our lands. We've not been stepping up to that. We can do much better. It's all three, but in the end, we control the regulation.
Melissa?
All right, moving on to the next question. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to be here. There have been a few scandals with previous holders of this office. How do you plan on working with the companies that you would be responsible for regulating? And the first person to answer would be Ben Allen.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm not accepting a dime from the insurance industry because I think that the Californians deserve to know that their insurance commissioner, the person they're entrusting to oversee this market, to regulate this industry, is not beholden to them. That's always looking out for them. You've got to put consumers first. The reason why this was even created as an elected position was because previous appointed insurance commissioners was far too cozy with the folks who voted for. With me, you have somebody who's got a strong track record of pro-consumer work, pro-consumer legislation, getting difficult bills through the legislature, pushing back against the insurance industry, someone who knows how to work on these kinds of issues in the legislature and with the governor's office, but who's always put consumers first at every step of the way. I'm also someone who's been a clean money champion, 100% a top-ranked a member of the legislature by the California Clean Money Campaign because of my commitment to ethics and transparency and political reform. So you're not going to see some of the challenges that we've seen with some of the previous folks with me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And Steve Bradford, we'll move over to you.
Thank
Okay.
you. And can you pose the question again? I'm sorry.
It's in the chat for you. So
I
it's
can't see it.
there have been a few scandals with previous office
Yeah.
holders. How do you plan to work with the companies you would be responsible for regulating?
The way I've done for the last 26 years with integrity, transparency, and honesty. I ask you to look at my record. At no time have I ever compromised who I am as an individual, and that's what I will bring as your next insurance commissioner. But it requires you to have collaboration. It requires you to have meetings with everybody, all sectors, the consumers, the industry, the Department of Insurance. We all have to look ourselves in the mirror and challenge ourselves to do better. I will put my record up to anybody that's in this race or anyone who has held this office before. I've gone, like I say, 26 years without a scandal. It's about integrity. I had to regulate and oversee the insurance industry. A utility industry when I chaired utilities in both the Assembly and the Senate. I had to work with the PUC, had to work with CEOs of the company, and we did it in a transparent manner. Same way, I had 4 refineries in my district. I worked closely with all of them to make sure that they adhere to all our strong environmental standards and practices. So it's about collaboration. It's about honest conversation. It's about my integrity. I do this for no other reason than to serve my community, and I'm not here to take any payments under the table or anything like that. I am not for sale. I'm from the Shirley Chisholm model, unbought, unbossed, and that's who I am. That's who I'll always be as an elected official and as your next insurance commissioner.
Thank you for that. Patrick, you are up.
Thank you very much. Well, I launched my campaign in August, and from the very moment I launched, I put right on my website, I will not accept any money from insurance companies. To be honest, I kind of view that as table stakes. I can't imagine anyone not making that pledge. I've also signed the no fossil fuel money pledge, which I'm seeing nods. I think we all understand that. But I want to go deeper because your question speaks to a couple things. First, I think it speaks to integrity, and I completely agree with Stephen. Integrity and Ben, and I'm sure Jane, integrity is absolutely critical. You regulate the market for the benefit of the customer. You always have to keep that in mind. Of course, you have to work with the insurance companies. Of course, you have to understand their perspective, but you are regulating the market for the benefit of the customer, and that's what this is always about. And I'm sure we can all agree on that. But I also think it goes a little bit deeper because what you're talking about with the current insurance commissioner has to do with accepting perks, has to do with sort of taking travel on the public dime. I'm not about that. When I step into this office, as far as I'm concerned, box lunches are just fine. Like, I think it's important to demonstrate to the public, not just through what you're really doing, but also what you're showing what you're doing, that you're on the side of the customer, that you're not in this because you like perks or attention or anything else. It's about doing the work. And that's how I'll approach this.
Thank you, Patrick. Jane Kim, you are up.
I have also committed to not taking a dime from insurance industry and PACs, their executive, fossil fuels, or any corporate PACs in this race. I think it's important to talk a little bit about, our history and record in working with industries. When I served on the Board of Supervisors, one of the main areas that we got to regulate was the use of land. Right. And in many ways, we were wealth asset managers for landowners, what they could build, how high, how dense could they build hotel, residential, industrial. And in many ways, we as the public were conferring value and dollars onto their land by the approval process and the permitting process. I represented a district that was seeing 80% of all of San Francisco's residential and commercial development. So I spent most of my time on land use. And when I sat at the table with market rate developers, I knew that if I was giving 10 extra floors or allowing residential instead of industrial, the public was giving that developer millions of dollars. And so what we would ask in return is if we are giving you $50 million, $100 million to build this project, well, then I want you to share 50% of that in the form of affordable housing, in the form of road improvements and parks, school contributions. This is the energy that I will bring to the insurance commissioner. I am proud of the fact that I negotiated record levels of affordable middle income housing for San Franciscoans, and that I won more housing, affordable housing, than any supervisor in San Francisco history. This is what we need an insurance commissioner and what I will do if elected.
Thank you.
And Christine?
Thank you so much. Next question. How would you work with the legislator to ensure customers' policies are paid out in a timely manner and to protect consumers from fraud in the insurance industry? We'll start off with Stephen Bradford.
Well, I will lean on the relationships that I've established over the last 14 years as a legislature, serving in both the Assembly and the Senate, understanding that a lot of what needs to happen in the insurance industry, especially with the Department of Insurance, will require legislation. And so it requires you to have those relationships in both of those houses, as well as bipartisan as well, to move issues forward and working with the governor's office as well. So that's what I will do, lean on those relationships, but also understand the issues. Far too often we legislate through headlines versus drilling down and getting down to the specifics of what needs to be fixed here. And far too often we're kind of doing it from a broad lens, and we need to be laser focused and understanding how we can, like I say, make insurance hardening, reward constituents by passing legislation that recognizes if you harden your homes, you will receive a discount. It shouldn't be willy-nilly. We need to have a blueprint, a gold model standard of what home hardening is, and we recognize it on a state level as well, so we can credit those individuals who take the proactive measure. We also have to fix the FAIR Plan. It's woefully broken and not serving California the way it should do, and it will take a little bit of legislation to fix that as well. So that's what I would do.
Perfect. Patrick Wolf, you're up.
Thank you very much. I want to answer this question in two ways. First, of course, I certainly agree with Stephen. It requires collaborative work with the legislature. The specific question has to do with paying out consumer policies in a timely manner and protecting consumers from fraud. And I'm sure that there are ways to coordinate with the legislature on that. But I actually think the insurance commissioner, the Department of Insurance, has a lot of the power to make that happen, particularly in property and casualty. This is a role with substantial regulatory oversight. And again, one of my policies I believe very strongly in is empowering the consumer with the knowledge that the Department of Insurance is already collecting. So I'm going to work on that. And of course, I'll find ways to work with the legislature. But here's the other, I want to take this question a slightly different direction. I'm not sure it's about health insurance, but I do want to talk about health insurance for a minute. The insurance commissioner doesn't have that much authority in health insurance because most policies are regulated by the Department of Managed Healthcare. But let me tell you something. People in Sacramento have known for years that this dual regulatory system of Department of Managed Healthcare and Department of Insurance is not serving the people of California. And when I'm an insurance commissioner, I'm going to work with the legislature to do a major overhaul to combine the regulation so that we end this dual regulatory structure, which has been harming California consumers in a whole host of ways. That's the kind of reform I'm going to bring as insurance commissioner.
Thank you. Jane Kim, you are up.
There's a number of things that the insurance commissioner can and should do to protect consumers during the claims process. One, we should freeze the rates when you file a claim. You should not be penalized for using the insurance industry for the very thing you've been paying them for years to do, which is what we constantly see. Many of us think twice before filing a claim because we're worried about our coverage getting canceled or premiums going up, when in fact, that's what we pay them to do. Two, we should make sure that claim history is not factored into your premium calculation. We, again, get insurance in the case of a collision, a climate catastrophe, things that we can't control in the future. That is why we buy insurance. Next, we should also look at ways that we can better work with insurance to ensure that claims are filed, that claims are addressed within a certain time limit. And that's done efficiently and effectively. Part of how the insurance industry is making $170 billion a year is by denying valid claims and delaying it. Denying they love to do, because if even only 90% of folks appeal, that's 10% money saved, and then 50% get adjudicated. Every time they delay your claim, that's another day that they get to keep your dollar to accumulate the returns from the stock market, which is how they make their money. We should be penalizing this behavior and developing a consistent and static timeline and framework to make sure that claims are paid out in a timely manner.
Thank you very much. And then Ben Allen, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, great points from all the folks. Absolutely. I'm the one candidate who actually was involved with making sure that we had the non-renewal moratorium that passed in the immediate aftermath of the fire. I'm the one candidate who was representing this community that lived through these terrible fires and was taking the phone calls and working the phones, trying to help people. There's folks like Matthew, who is a minister and also someone who lost his home in the fire zone, who lost everything, was getting the run of the mill, getting sent around different adjusters by State Farm, wasn't able to get a call back from Department of Insurance, finally called a state senator, and we were able to get his claims satisfactorily taken care of, and those for the church within a few weeks. It's those kind of folks that inspired me to run for this. Steve's also right. We have a lot of work to do with the legislature. This is not something that we can just fix within the powers of the insurance commissioner within Proposition 103. That's why I'm proud to have the endorsements of the vast majority of the legislature, the legislative leadership, our assembly speaker, our president pro tem. I think nearly 70 members of Congress and members of the legislature who trust me, and they know me because they know that I've been able to get difficult things through the legislature. So yes, those relationships matter. There's a lot of regulatory power that the commissioner already has. And I've actually worked on the ground to deal with just these kinds of issues relating to making sure that people are paid out in a timely manner. I've run legislation on that very topic and got it through. That's now forcing the insurance system to pay people timely and fairly.
Okay, thank you. On to the last question that we have for you guys. Over the past several years, insurance rates have spiked dramatically, with some areas becoming entirely unaffordable, even under the FAIR Plan. And some insurance companies have withdrawn from the California marketplace entirely. What specific actions would you take in your first year to stabilize the market, and how will we know that you have been successful? We will start this question off with Patrick Wolf.
Thank you very much. This is an important, deep question. I'm going to do my best to address it in 90 seconds. Let me start with this important point. The risk is the risk. The risk has to be priced in a rational way. There are two things we have to do. First, we have to make sure that customers have the power and never insurance companies. That means that insurance companies are competing with each other to figure out the best way to price the risk and the best way to incentivize actions to reduce risk. And they're only able to charge enough to cover the cost and never more than that. That's what makes a healthy, functioning market. Number two, it's important that we take actions to reduce the broader risk. And that gets to the climate change issue that we were asking before. So again, in my plan, first, we hold insurance companies accountable. Holding insurance companies accountable means a suite of policies that make sure that they're acting in the way that makes their policies transparent, they're covering what needs to be covered, the consumer is empowered, they're not misbehaving, all of that. With the consumer empowered, then we increase choice and competition. By increasing choice and competition, we make that robust market work. Third, we improve transparency. So to your point, how do we know we're successful? Because we hold the Department of Insurance accountable for results. And finally, we take the actions to reduce climate risk, because reducing climate risk is what reduces the overall cost, which makes the overall premiums lower, again, in a competitive market where they're never able to charge more than they have to.
Thank you so much. Jane Kim, you're up next.
I have to emphasize again how much the property insurance industry alone has made in the last 3 years. This is during the increase in climate catastrophe and wildfires. In fact, nationally, insurance companies don't want you to know this. Wildfires has only been 6% of the payouts that they make nationally, while they make $170 billion in profit, not revenue. So what Patrick mentioned is true. The loss to expense ratio is not accurate. They say that they're losing money, but they're making record profits in the stock market. And then two, they have offloaded their risk by canceling coverage on all the homes that they view at risk to fire. That's not how an insurance pool works. An insurance pool works as a collective. We reduce our risk by pooling our funds together as a collective so that when someone is a victim of a catastrophe, that we are able to cover that loss. And how we actually should be reducing risk as a state is by investing in resiliency and infrastructure. Now, we already pay for that. We have socialized the cost of climate catastrophe, but we have privatized the gain for the insurance industries by letting them profit, which is why I'm proposing a nonprofit, publicly run, a home disaster insurance program, which would actually provide affordable premiums for everyone and not invest in fossil fuels and make sure that we are paying out homeowners in a timely manner and ensuring that we are taking care of all of us. I'm not, oh,
Thank you. Ben Allen, you'll be next.
Yeah, great. Is a key question. I mean, we know families are being squeezed every direction. Insurance is really reaching a breaking point. So we've got to first enforce the law really aggressively. No unjustified rate hikes. We have to have real penalties for bad claims practices. We have to have full transparency in rate filings. Secondly, we have to stabilize the FAIR Plan by strengthening oversight. And we have to make sure that it really is about being what it initially was supposed to be, a true safety net, not a permanent second-class system that the insurance industry throws the highest risk folks over to. Third, we've got to require insurers to recognize real wildfire mitigation and keep doing business in California instead of walking away as we step up and really invest in hardening and making our communities safer. We need the insurance industry to step up and reward that type of hardening work with real insurance for people. I think we're going to know that it's working when fewer families are forced onto the FAIR Plan, when coverage becomes more widely available. I also think that we can do some more. I think Patrick's right to open up the market a little bit further. To create some more competition. We have to be careful not to do it in a way that will harm consumers. But I think there's a way to do it because right now the market's far too stultified. And at the end of the day, it's about making sure that the companies the prices come down, we have more competition, and that we've also got a good system in place where the claims are being paid faster and more fairly after disasters, especially in high-risk communities.
Thank you. Mr. Bradford, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I would continue on something that the current insurance commissioner has started last year, and that's a sustainable insurance strategy. I've heard from both consumers and the industry, as well as the department, that it's working. So we should truly stand that up again to add a catastrophic modeling like every other state was doing other than California and Arkansas up until last year, to use scientific data to help predict not only natural disasters, but man-made ones as well, and reward those individuals who take those proactive steps to harden their homes and become far more resilient, but also making a market far more competitive. The more insurance companies that we can keep in California, the lower the rates will go. But if you leave it to one or two, they control the market and they can raise their prices as high as possible. So a competitive market is what we're going to need in order to reduce rates. It's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. We need as many of these companies to be here, but also we need to be, again, in a more collaborative manner and approach. We got to quit pointing the fingers and playing the blame game. That's what we've been doing for the last 10 or 20 years, playing the blame game, when we have to really sit down and say, how do we make this work for all Californians? We want these businesses here. And as I talk to a lot of the insurance companies, they want to be here. We're the fourth leading economy, but we have to make it work where it makes sense for the consumers and have transparency on the rates.
Thank you. Now we will be moving to closing statements. These will be 2 minutes, and we'll start with Jane Kim.
thank you. During election season, you hear politicians talk a lot about the affordability crisis, but we all know that expensive homes, expensive groceries, expensive insurance are a result of policy failure. What we need is political courage. If you're looking for an insurance commissioner who's just going to tinker with the system, I'm not your candidate. I'm excited to run for this office because I believe this under the radar, underleveraged office can be a powerful platform for working families to propose bold and practical ideas to redesign how to make California work for all of us, not just some of us. My entire career as an elected official, a civil rights attorney, as California Director of Working Families, I have a track record of fighting and tackling big ideas, big corporations, and winning. They're going to tell you that our ideas won't work, that they're too expensive. But we already know that the current system doesn't work and the current system is too expensive. And by the way, more competition is not going to help because the companies that are losing money have to keep premiums high, and the companies that are doing well have no incentive to lower their rates either. I'm going to be proposing ideas that are not radical. They're actually practical. They work in other countries and they work for everyone, except they won't create and enrich more billionaires and trillionaires. Let's build an insurance system that works for us. I hope that I can earn your vote on June 2nd for insurance commissioner. I'm proud to have earned the endorsement of my former boss, Bernie Sanders, Controller Malia Cohen. I'm also proud to have earned the endorsement of the two largest unions in California, SEIU California and California Teachers Association, along with California Federation of Teachers and National Union of Healthcare Workers and Working Families Party. I've earned these endorsements because of my track record of fighting for working families, taking on big problems, big corporations, and winning for all of us. I hope to earn your endorsement and to make an insurance system that works for all of California with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ben Allen, we'll move over to you for your 2-minute closing.
Yeah, thank you everybody for your interest in this really difficult and very important topic. We've heard some great ideas from the candidates, and I have a lot of respect for the other folks running for this position. I think with me, you have someone who comes forward with a staunch independence, but also a really strong track record of getting difficult legislation through the legislature, up against difficult headwinds and industry opposition, who's got a strong track record of really working on these kinds of issues, wildfire resilience and water infrastructure and firefighting infrastructure, standing up to the insurance industry, standing up to all sorts of different folks that are out there trying to make things more difficult for consumers. So for me, this is not just rhetoric. This is actually about results. It's also about my own home community that went through such a terrible experience. I'm hopeful. My dream here is that if I'm successful, if we're successful, we can figure out a way to take advantage, to capitalize on this massive crisis that is squeezing people, to create some value that will help people and help communities harden and make it much less likely that we'll have the kind of disasters that we just saw last year in Los Angeles that hit my community. It's about helping people like Matthew and making sure that we have a system in place so that he doesn't have to call a state senator to get help, that the system works for people like him, that the system also works before the fire even happens, because we've put in place the upfront investments to ensure that there's less risk. I'm proud to have the endorsement of some wonderful progressive organizations like California Environmental Voters, like the California Federation of Teachers, like Senator Adam Schiff and our legislative leadership. So many, most of the Democratic legislators and dozens, over a dozen members of Congress, because they know the work that I have done. People from across the spectrum, strong progressive voices, who know the work that I've done, who know that I've actually been able to from them, but also working with them to get important legislation through that in the end of the day is all about protecting the public. That is my North Star. That's what inspires me to run for this race. And I would be so honored to have your endorsement at the party.
Thank you so much. Mr. Bradford, your closing statement.
I appreciate the opportunity to come before you this morning. Again, I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to do the work. And I ask you to look at my record of 26 years as an elected official, from getting elected to the city of Gardena that was on the brink of bankruptcy 27 years ago because they started a ill-advised mutual municipal insurance company. And it almost bankrupted the city. So I've had experience of trying to stabilize insurance issues. I've served on the insurance committee again in the legislature. But most importantly, I ask you to look at my record of 26 years as a city council person, assemblyman, and a senator. One of the things I'm most proud of is that I have never missed a day of work. And I stress that because this job will require you to show up. You can't phone this one in. You can't say, oh, talk to the staff. You have to be present to do this work. And I plan on doing it. It's a department of 1,400 employees. And will I have opportunity to meet with all 1,400? No, but I know in order to make this work, the department has to work as well. And I've heard about some of the roadblocks that exist within the Department of Insurance, and they need modernization. I will work to do that. And again, it's a collaborative relationship that you have to have with both the insurance industry, the Department of Insurance, and our consumer groups. I did that as chair of utilities, working with Turn and Greenlining to make sure that consumers are protected on their electrical rates. I will do the same when it comes to insurance. We need to bring transparency to this market. We need to modernize the insurance department and making sure that, again, if you take the proactive measures to harden your homes, to do the progressive work, that you're rewarded for that. We've got to quote with the lip service. Look at my record of returning property, Bruce's Beach, things of that nature, police decertification. I've done the heavy lifts. I've shown up for the fight, and I'll be here for the fight here.
Thank you so much. And Patrick Wolf, you have your 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you very much. And thank you again so much for organizing this. And thank you for the delegates who are really paying attention to this incredibly important race. Look, each of us obviously believes that we are the best candidate. That's why you put yourself forward. And I'll make my case. I'd be very, very privileged to have your endorsement. The other candidates will talk about their political experience. I'll talk about my professional experience with 25 years of insurance and financial expertise, as well as 10 years of political volunteerism. The other candidates will talk about their political endorsements and special interest group endorsements. I'll talk about an endorsement I have from a professor, Daniel Schwartz, who is the leading expert of consumer protection and insurance law, who's enthusiastically endorsed me because he knows that my policies are deeply grounded, not just in what is poll tested, but in really what will work for the people. But I also want to ask you to consider something else. If you would endorse me, I'd be very, very privileged and honored. But I also want to ask you to consider a no endorsement. And let me explain why. Most states actually appoint the insurance commissioner because generally this role is viewed as one that really requires expertise. We're only one of 11 states that elects. Now, the elected system absolutely can work, but it requires not just strong candidates. It requires the full attention of the electorate. And we all know that if the Democratic Party, the California Democratic Party endorses, it has the practical effect of pushing this race down ballot and out of sight. The California Democratic Party twice endorsed the current insurance commissioner. And we saw one of the questions that actually called into question the fitness of it. And I don't want to go there, but I just want to highlight that. I think a no endorsement actually would elevate this race to the people and serve the people to really focus on this race like they haven't before.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you to all the candidates for joining us this morning. We will now be moving on to the controller race. This will be slightly different because we only have one candidate here. There will be a 3-minute open, a 2-minute close, and 2 minutes for a couple of questions that we will be asking. And with that, I will introduce Malia Cohn. Your 3-minute open.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning, Democrats. I'm really happy to be here to present myself to you to ask for your support once again. I was elected 4 years ago, and I am coming back to ask for another 4 years. The State Controller's Office is responsible as serving California's watchdog, keeping eye over the tracking of tax dollars, where it's going, who's getting, how much. And I set out 4 years ago to do something very simple, something very radical, make the state's checkbook available to every Democrat. Quite frankly, to everyone, not just a Democrat. And I still am working on that project. It's a huge technology project, but we will be delivering it very shortly. Something else that I've also done that I'm very proud of is been consistent to the pledge I signed over 10 years ago, and that's not to accept fossil fuel. And as the state controller, I've been able to sit on the State Lands Commission as well as the Coastal Commission and to honor that. Not that fossil fuel industry are throwing dollars my way. Actually, they know better. They don't even approach me in that way. But I have been able to work passing policy to decommission oil rigs along the coast, particularly down in Southern California. We've been able to call the question into the cleaning up Imperial Beach, holding conferences and our meetings down in the affected area, lifting up and amplifying the voices of the community in the affected communities around Imperial Beach, Ormond Beach. The controller sits on 70 different boards and commission. So I also spent a lot of time in CalPERS and CalSTRS. And that's an important because these are the two largest pension funds in the state of California, and some could argue even in the world. And so on this capacity, I'm going to make sure that our investments are not jeopardizing workers, are not hurting people of color, are not compromising our party's values when it comes to supporting healthy work environments, particularly paying attention to women. We have set up some labor standards that we look through the lens when it comes to our investments. We have done a tremendous amount of work stifling Elon Musk's ability to increase X-Force's launches from the Brandenburg facility down in Southern California. We have made it very uncomfortable for oil companies to get their pipeline renewed so that they can continue to pump oil off the coast of California. This is just a snippet of the role of the state controller. I sit on 70 different boards, like I mentioned. I also sit on like smaller boards like the Victims Compensation Fund, Hospital Resource Fund. So we were successful in the last 2 years in saving hospitals from closing from the Central Valley, making large grant to organizations that are in healthcare facility districts. So I hope that you'll join me and support my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Are there questions?
Yes,
down.
good morning. Thank you so
Hi,
much for being
Christine.
here with us. Hi. So, first question is the state controller is California's chief fiscal watchdog. In an era of complex contracting, federal funding flows, and increasing risks of waste and fraud, what specific steps would you take to straighten audits, oversight, and transparency to ensure taxpayer dollars are protected and used as intended?
Oh, Christine, great question. First of all, I want more people to pay attention to these fiscal offices, right? Or what's the controller is doing, the treasurer is doing, very important. Because what we are doing is a service to you. So what we're starting to see now is people are waking up and paying more careful attention to audits. Audits are an important tool because it tells you where money is going, where it is not going. Now, as the controller, my job is also to strengthen accounting practices whenever and wherever to make sure that the guardrails are put into place so that money is not stolen. So, what are we doing? We are vociferously prosecuting people that steal our money. So, example, I partnered up with the district attorney down in down in San Diego, and we went after a string of charter schools that stole tens of millions of dollars, tax dollars, by fraud, lying, saying that they had X number of students and they didn't. And as a result, we got some money, most of our money back. The guilty parties are in jail. And also, we created laws and policies to strengthen, particularly uh, um, policies that would not allow people to fire their auditor or fire their accountant whenever they raise a red flag. That's just one example. Another example is a huge technology project that I mentioned. I want the state's checkbook to be accessible to everyone so that you can go online real time and see how much was that how much was that paper vendor paid? How much was that caterer paid? Who got the contract for high-speed rail? How are we doing when it comes to homeless? These are all answers that lie in the budget. But if the budget is an unsearchable document, what good is it? Other than we talk about it in a high existential level. I want you to be able to go into the way you go into your own personal account, to be able to go into the state's account and see exactly where spending is going. Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. On to the second question.
Okay.
The controller's office is responsible for paying hundreds of state workers and managing critical financial systems. What is your plan to modernize, operations and prevent payroll or payment failures?
Mm.
Where the office is resilient, accurate, and responsive, especially during budget stress or
Melissa, you call out budget season. I also want to call out tax season. Tax season is also equally as important. So there's a few things that we're doing. We're strengthening our infrastructure around security, maintaining that the information that we do have of taxpayers is secure, as well as accurate. You also mentioned, did you mention unfunded liability? Is that what I heard? No, you kind of broke up in your question, Melissa.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you want me?
Could you repeat it one more time? I didn't catch it all.
Yes, of course. So the controller's office is responsible for paying hundreds of thousands of state workers and managing critical
Oh.
finance. Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And we make payroll for hundreds of thousands of workers every month. And whenever bargaining units are successful and and the members of the state of California workforce get a pay increase, we also are responsible for implementing that in a timely manner. I'll be honest with you, one of the major hiccups that we have is our technology. And as you can imagine, it's expensive. And in the state of California, it is outdated. So one of the steps that I took as soon as I got into office was listening on where state workers wanted to hear, where our partners, such as labor, SEIU in particular, what they needed to help organize their members and future members. And so ensuring that the information that we're collecting and turning over to the unions is accurate, that helps with them with their dues and their assessment. Also, it bolsters a community of just good rapport, safe working environments. Technology is huge. There was a technology project underway that I inherited. So the state workers are going to go from being paid one time a month to twice a month. And this, my friend, has been an endeavor for the last 6 years. So we are going to see this to fruition. It's going to come to reality in 2027. And that's just one example of a major technology project that we're working that impacts state workers.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
2 minutes for a closing statement.
Oh, you know what? Closing statement. I just want you to join teachers, firefighters, state employee workers like SEIU. These are the folks that are supporting me. There's a reason why both sides of labor are supporting this candidacy. I didn't talk too much about it, but when we talk about housing, it's also important. I sit on the SIDLAC and TCLAC, which are very important commissions that are chaired by the treasurer, but is responsible for tax dollars on building affordable housing. And no matter where you slice it, no matter who you're talking to, everyone talks about the crisis for housing. So I'm on that team and also working to get housing dollars out the door to get developers developing housing more quickly. But I'm also have a unique position because I'm also auditing those folks that receive tax dollars and working with prosecutors to prosecute those that are stealing money. So it's kind of an awesome position to be in, to be able to sit on the allocation of the dollars, but also the auditing of the dollars.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yes. Next, we will be going to the Board of Equalization. There are quite a few candidates from multiple districts in this category. There will be a 2-minute open, a 2-minute close, and 90 seconds for responding to questions. In case some of these candidates joined us late, I will remind all the candidates that in addition to asking the questions, they will be posted in the chat, and you will find them there if you need some clarification. So we will start with a 2-minute opening with John Pimentel.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm John Pimentel. Hello, thank you very much. I'm John Pimentel, and I'm running for the Board of Equalization. I'm new to this state level of politics, so I thought I'd start by introducing myself. I grew up in Stockton, California. I attended the public schools in Stockton and Lodi. I was blessed to be able to go to community college in Stockton and transfer to Cal. California's investment in public higher education changed the trajectory of my life and created a lifelong fan for me of the of the community college system, which comes back to my story in a moment. I went on to work in Sacramento through most of my 20s in public service and did some pretty entrepreneurial things there. My highest position was as Deputy Secretary for Transportation, where I was responsible for rebuilding the Southern California freeways in record time after the Northridge earthquake. I also merged together the California State Police and the Highway Patrol. I say these things with humility. It wasn't me who did it. It was a whole group of people who worked on these things, but I was the energy behind those initiatives. And that itself saved millions of dollars for eliminating redundant state services. I then left state service, went for an MBA that I completed at Harvard, then worked at Bain & Company, and finally, for the last 20 years, I've been developing renewable energy projects all over California: wind, solar, on-site wastewater treatment systems, and biofuels companies. Those companies help reduce the costs for some of California's largest employers and gave myself and my family the opportunity for me to return to public service recently, where I became the trustee for the San Mateo County Community College District. In that role, I took on one major, which was to make community college free in order to address the affordability crisis that we face in California. And with that change, which required a change in state law, enrollment in our community college district is up 24%, including 33% from East Palo Alto, which is an area I represent. I want to be on the Board of Equalization for 3 reasons primarily. The first is to end the sales tax on food. It's a highly regressive tax that hurts our working families, young people, and poor people disproportionately. I also want to pay for that by closing the loopholes on the wealthy and corporations so that they pay their fair share. And lastly, I want to make sure that the board itself is operating as effectively and transparently as possible so that the taxpayers who use it understand what is happening and where their appeals stand in the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. And as is on his profile, John is a candidate for District 2 of BOE. We will be doing all of the candidates for all of the various positions. So we are going to move over to Sally Lieber, a candidate for District 2 as well. And then if Jeff, we can make sure the timer goes on the screen. Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the regional directors for the service that you provide to our party throughout the year, and also for putting on this forum. It is much appreciated. I am a lifelong Democrat. I have served at the local, regional, and state levels. I currently serve as chair of the Board of Equalization, and I am also running in District 2. I am a corporate-free Democrat. I have a lifelong 100% rating from labor, community organizations, and environmental organizations. My focus on the BOE has been on transparency, fairness, equity across all counties, and really offering excellent constituent casework to individual taxpayers, but also to nonprofit organizations in our communities, to local governments that have concerns that relate to property taxes, and even to members of the legislature who need to be connected to understand certain complex tax measures. I have been endorsed by our legislative leadership, by the California Working Families Party, by the California Teachers Association, and by Teamsters. And near and dear to my heart is my endorsement by the Democratic Legislative Women's Caucus. When I came into the state assembly, where I served for 3 terms, women were few and far between. And it has really seen a lot of growth through tremendous efforts. And the Women's Caucus is now the largest caucus in the state legislature. The BOE has a certain set of issues that we work on.
Thank you that time. Appreciate it. Awesome. And next up will be Cody Pedersen from a candidate for District 4. Whenever you're ready, Cody.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Cody Pedersen. I am currently Chief Deputy at the California State Board of Equalization 4th District, and I'm also running for California State Board of Equalization 4th District. I'm a single father of a 9 and a 12-year-old who were both sick for the last 10 days, so you can imagine what my last couple of weeks were like. I am a lifelong Democrat, lifelong resident in Southern California. I grew up here, came up through public schools, did my undergraduate degree at Berkeley, Bay Area, and then returned for an MFA, went to an MFA in Iowa, and then came back for a PhD in anthropology at UCSD, did my fieldwork on ethnic conflict and municipal politics in Highland, Peru. And then I came back and got involved in party politics. I come from an environment in which, especially strengthened by my time in anthropology, in which my primary focus in politics is the attack on inequality. I think it's eating our society from the inside, and everything I do is focused on that. I came up through the party, CADEM, State County Central Committee, State Central Committee, State Executive Board. I was president of Democrats for Environmental Action. And I have, over the last 3 years, been on just wrapped up a presidency at San Diego Unified, where we have really transformed education workforce housing in the state. We have the most aggressive education workforce housing program in the country. Just this week, we finished awarding 2,497 units of education workforce housing. That is by far the most of any district. Statewide, only 832 have been built. I have also been at BOE since 2019 and chief deputy since 2023. This is oftentimes called an obscure board. It is the only elected tax body in the country. It is not obscure to somebody who's been there day in, day out. It does $167 billion in state assessed property. It issues letters to assessors to equalize assessment practices. I'd love the opportunity and questions to talk more about what it does, but I truly believe that I can leverage the powers and authorities of this board, not only to improve its operation, but to advance our priorities at the time.
Then next up will be Tom Umberg, also a candidate for District 4.
Hello, Democrats. Thank you for including me today. I'm running for the Board of Equalization because I think I can change things. The Board of Equalization has unique power over county assessors. County assessors are the only elected tax officials that have direct relationship to the valuation of your property, which has a direct relationship to the taxes that are collected. I've been fighting corruption most of my career as a federal prosecutor, as someone who served in the Clinton administration, focused on corruption overseas, in the U.S. Army, and now in the California State Senate. I'm a state senator representing Orange County. And I have fought with every fiber of my being the current corrupt administration. And I will continue to do so as a member of the Board of Equalization. You can Google my bio and see the various jobs I've had, the bills I've passed, the issues I've championed. But let me just give you a couple little factoids that I think tell you what you need to know about my biography. In 1988, and I realize that people's eyes may be rolling when I say 1988. 1988 in Orange County, I was a federal prosecutor and I was on duty that day. I was the person who was responsible for dealing with emergencies as they might arise in the election, whether it's a search warrant or subpoena, what have you. And I got a report that there were people dressed as police officers turning away Latinos in polling places. Didn't seem believable. Got a couple more reports, grabbed another prosecutor, went out to Santa Ana High, and I saw a policewoman with a big sign that said, "Non-citizens may not vote." And we watched as a Latino couple, what appeared to be a Latino couple, approached, talked to the person holding the sign, and turned and walked away. I thought, oh my God, that's happening right here. We got out, we chased, didn't catch her. Turns out that wasn't illegal at the time. The person responsible for that won that election. At that time, there were no Democrats elected, supervisor, legislative level, or at Congress. I ran against that person because of exactly what happened and beat him. And returned and then went to Sacramento and made that exact practice illegal. That's all I think you need to know.
Thank you so much. Next up will be Martin Arias, who is also a candidate for District 4. Martin?
Good morning, Democrats. Your leadership strengthens our party, and I am honored to get to know you and earn your support today. My name is Martin Arias, and I'm running for the State Board of Equalization 4th District. because this office should work for people who don't always have a voice in the system. I'm proud to have earned the endorsement of CAL FIRE Local 2881, representing more than 9,000 frontline firefighters across California, and the critical endorsement of the California Latino Legislative Caucus. These endorsements and the over 250,000 that we've raised reflect the successful coalition we're building, one rooted in service, fairness, and accountability. I'm a first-generation American, the son of Mexican immigrants, and the first in my family to graduate from a university. I was raised in an underrepresented community here in San Diego, and those experiences shaped my belief that government should educate people about the rights, advocate for fairness, and fight for them when the system feels overwhelming and unjust. I currently serve as a taxpayer advocate for the San Diego County Assessor's Office. I see every day how confusing and intimidating property tax systems can be, especially for working families, seniors, veterans, LGBTQ people, and small business owners. My job has never been political. It's been about showing up, explaining options in plain language that folks can understand, and standing with people when things go wrong. That work has helped thousands of taxpayers deliver over $35 million in tax savings for disabled veterans and their families, and ensured that more than 20,000 veterans receive the property tax exemptions that they've earned through their hard service. Earlier in my career, I served as the Director of Prevention and Intervention at the District Attorney's Office. I helped create 19 homeless court pop-up resource fairs, connecting more than 2,000 unhoused neighbors to shelters, vital documents, and a second chance.
All right, that's time. Thank you. All right, and next up is Nelson Esparza from District 1.
Hey, good morning, folks. It's great to be here with you all. Really appreciate the regional directors for organizing on their own time and putting something like this together for delegates and voters alike to be able to hear a bit from their different candidates. Again, I'm Nelson Esparza. I serve on the Fresno City Council, and I am your Democratic candidate for Board of Equalization in District 1. District 1 spans much of inland California from the Oregon border all the way down through the Central Valley where I live and into the Inland Empire. So very vast district full of 34 counties. We're all very much aware of some of the characteristic differences between inland California and coastal California. I'm a proud son of the Central Valley. Represented my local community here for nearly 10 years in elected office. Started off as a county board of education trustee representing my community, and for the last 7 years served on the city council. Currently, the vice president of the Fresno City Council. Outside of elected office, I'm an economist by trade. I'm an educator at heart, and a proud member of the California Federation of Teachers who have also endorsed me. And I'm running for this Board of Equalization office because I believe strongly in fairness and competence, in incompetence and integrity. And really, this is one of the last state constitutional offices that is held by the GOP here in our great state. And we talk a lot about how we elect Democrats from top to bottom, all of the state offices, but this BOE being a state constitutional office, this is the last seat held by Republicans. And I'm very much looking forward to partnering with all of you to help flip it and joining my Democratic colleagues on the board.
Thank you. That is time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And our last candidate for their opening statement will be Mike Gibson, who's a candidate for District 3.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Democrats. Mike Gibson, California State Assembly member representing the 65th State Assembly District. I'm honored to be with all of you and all that's running for the Board of Equalization. Simply put, I was born and raised in the Watts community, represents where I was born and raised, happily so. My mother and father did only graduate with a high school education, raised 4 children in Watts, all have degrees. My father was a truck driver. Mother did domestic work, never had a college education, but they made sure that their 4 children went to college and obtained a college degree. And today, myself, I became a police officer, the first African American um, um, police officer in the history of the Maywood Police Department, the first and last. The Maywood Police Department no longer exists, was taken over by LA County Sheriff's Department. Before I left, they were taken over. I became also a unionist after my father. My father was a truck driver, organized into Teamsters, to the United Steelworkers of America. And that started my unionism after my partner was shot and killed in the line of duty. I joined SEIU. SAU Local 99 and 399, which is now UHW. So I spent 10 years with SEIU. After I left SEIU, I went to go work for United Teachers Los Angeles, spent 12 years with UTLA. After I left UTLA, I worked for the Board of Equalization, spent a great number of years and became the chief of staff. I'm the only one in my race who have actually worked for the Board of Equalization, left the Board of Equalization, resigned from the Board of Equalization because I won to swore in 2014.
Enough time. Yeah, for your opening statement. Sorry.
Oh, that was quick. Okay.
You have more time coming up. Christine will begin the question segment now.
Great.
As a reminder, you have 90 seconds to respond, and if you will see the questions in the chat if you need to be refreshed on what they were. Christine?
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. First question is, California's tax policies have been described as a failure, primarily as a corporate loophole failure, an enforcement failure, and a failure of political will. Do you agree? And what would you fix first on the Board of Equalization? And we start off with Sally.
Well, thank you so much. I wouldn't say that it is an enforcement failure. I would say that in many instances, we're enforcing against the wrong groups of taxpayers. And I would like to see the focus be on the larger scale loopholes that are out there. One of the things that we've been very focused on, and we just held a hearing at the BOE, is what we call the LEOP process, which is legal entities, and the difficulty that the state has in telling when corporations, corporate properties change hands and should be reassessed. It's very, very clear when a homeowner's home is transacted and ends up being reassessed, but it's very unclear when that's happening with corporate properties. And so I'm hoping that in this year we can bring more discussion and action to that, and also look at how our tax credits are promulgated. We have extremely low or declining uptake of the earned income tax credit, the young child tax credit, and the foster youth tax credit in California. I would like to make it easier for families to find out about the availability of those tax credits and really work to center working families, working Californians, getting low-income affordable housing done in an expeditious way, and put additional responsibility on the major corporations and on the billionaires in our state.
Thank you very much. Cody Pedersen, you are up next.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the question. I'd answer it in several ways. First off is any tax system has multiple levels and types of taxation. Certainly in California, we have leaned heavily over recent years on sales tax in part because they're easier to get across the line, but they are very regressive. And we've also relied on a progressive income tax, which I'm very much in support of. However, property taxes in general, we have had challenges around implementing property taxes because of Prop 13. I was heavily involved in the Prop 15 split roll taxation we attempted to get across the line in 2020. Certainly 2/3 of our income tax revenue, that's lost to Prop 13 is lost to industrial and commercial properties. I would be very supportive and would hope that the board would lead the effort to get a split roll across the line. I would also say there's a lot of challenges, particularly with assessment appeals. Assessment appeals boards have a lot of collective action problems. They're sort of relegated to areas in the tax system that do not get a lot of support. We have a lot of improvements that we can lead at the Board of Equalization, bifurcating commercial and residential, bifurcating assessment and legal, so we can get a lot of those changes. A lot of rural counties in particular have a lot of trouble with assessment and with appeals. We can help on that. The board can do a lot of stuff actually through its authority, but also through its legislative advocacy. We have a legislative advocacy division. We can do a lot of work on that. But by and large, the most that this board can do is lead the effort to adopt a split roll. It will generate $10 to $15 billion a year for education and public service.
Thank you very much. Next up will be Tom Umberg.
Well, thank you. Look, there are a lot of issues with California's tax structure. There are a lot of issues with respect to the volatility and inability for governments and school districts, et cetera, to be able to plan because of that volatility. What I want to focus on is what can I do on the Board of Equalization, though, to benefit both the individual taxpayer as well as collectively all of us. One of the primary responsibilities of the Board of Equalization is to provide oversight over the 58 county tax assessors. County tax assessors are elected, and it is the only office where you can make a campaign contribution and see a direct benefit to your pocketbook. You can contribute $10,000 or whatever it is you contribute, and you can see the county assessor then can assess your property at far below what would normally be fair market value. There have been 3 county assessors or employees of county assessors who have gone to prison in the last several years for doing just that. And so what I would do is I would take my experience as a prosecutor, as someone who's been involved in anti-corruption efforts on both the local, national, and international level, and do audits and focus with a laser beam on those county assessors who are not assessing properly.
Thank you very much. Martin Arias, you're next.
Thank you, everyone. This is a great question. And, I get to tell you that as the taxpayer advocate for San Diego County, I get to live the revenue and taxation code every single day. Specifically, I want to talk to you about technological updates and upgrades. Throughout the 58 counties, there are very minimal counties that are using up-to-date technology. I'll tell you, in San Diego County, we're using AS400, DOS-like systems. If you recall, that's like an Atari type deal. You log in and it's a black screen. And I'll tell you firsthand that what I'm seeing is that there are tons of escaped assessments out there where we are every day losing potential revenue for the state, right? And to be able to deliver that back into direct services to our school districts, to our law enforcement, to our fire, to our public safety, that's where we're missing out. And so at the Board of Equalization, we have the ability to unify a pot of funding, essentially, to help enhance some of the smaller counties throughout the state. And I'll tell you, I want to talk to you just quickly about Los Angeles County. They just had the fires that happened last year, the Palisades fire, and you would have thought that they were going to lose out on a lot of revenue. They actually did not. They actually increased because they had just updated and actualized their assessment system. And so there's a clear opportunity here to help all of the 58 counties get up to par on their technology, go out and capture these escaped assessments, and deliver more revenue to the state of California. And that's exactly what I would focus on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Nelson Esparza, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think there is certainly a degree of truth, whether it's perception or rooted in reality, but there is a degree of truth to the assertion. And I think as Democrats, we can all agree that multi-billion-dollar corporations should not be getting special treatment. And so the Board of Equalization, I'd like to join my Democratic colleagues and taking a look at what mechanisms there are to strengthen that oversight of both corporate and utility property and ensure that we are accurately assessing these railroads, pipelines, utilities, telecom companies, these very large multi-county properties and getting the fair share to our state as well as our local communities. And that resonates with me in particular, representing nearly all of inland California, counties and cities, municipalities that desperately need that revenue, and where see a ton of wealthy communities, and so we can't afford to be leaving that kind of revenue on the tables, and our communities need it to fund all of our critical services from local level all the way up to our state services. So those are my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Mike Gibson, you'll be up next.
Thank you very much for the question. I want to answer the question this way. In 2017, the state legislature took some authority away from the Board of Equalization. I think that was wrong in hindsight. And I think some authority needs to be given back to the Board of Equalization so the Board of Equalization can really do some real things. As the former chief of staff, the Board of Equalization back then did some very dynamic things. The underground economy is killing the state of California. We're the fourth largest economy, but we can be a stronger economy because we have a lot of the black market that is getting away, that's not paying their fair share. One, we need to do some audits with some major corporation that is robbing the state of California blindly. We would need to do some enforcement. We need to go and do some audits on some major corporations, and we need to audit some books because they are robbing us blindly. We need to close, again, the corporate loophole with some major corporations that are not being audited appropriately. And I believe the State Board of Equalization, which is an elected body, and we have a body that has some authority, that is not elected, that are bureaucrats, that are making and doing some things that the elected body has no authority. And we need some authority by the Board of Equalization that used to have some authority, that we don't have authority. We had a subpoena power. We had a power that we used to have that we don't have any longer, that we need to have to really go in and empower us to do some authority to really close down the underground economy. That's what we really need to do.
Thank you so much. And then John Pimentel, please.
Thank you. This is a great question. The fact is that our tax system is extremely complex and intertwined. Addressing one issue creates others. And so it's not going to be an easy solution. In fact, the Board of Equalization has very little authority to set tax policy and will need interaction and leadership in the legislature in order to provide focus in making any significant change. That's why I would advocate for taking one thing and picking one item and saying we're going to focus our attention on this. And I believe the best item to fix is the sales tax on food. Right now, you don't pay sales tax on food bought in grocery stores. You do pay sales tax on food that's prepared in a restaurant and served to you at a table. That's grossly regressive. This would cost about $6 billion a year if we were to address that change. But it would be a material impact for our working families in improving affordability and reducing their cost of living. In order to fill that gap, I'd move to a second point, which is to close loopholes. The loophole that's known as the invest, borrow, and die loophole is the most obvious. Right now, a wealthy person can take their appreciated stock, borrow cash against it, spend that cash for their whole lifetime to enjoy their lifestyle, die. The stock then appreciates to their heirs to market, and tax is never paid. It's a loophole that needs to be closed. Lastly, I think we should invest in the technology to be at least as effective as the private sector in collection and assessment.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, there we go. On to the next question. So property tax assessments, especially under Proposition 13 and its related reforms, remain confusing and controversial for many Californians. How should the BOE balance taxpayer protections and the need for accurate, up-to-date assessments, and what role should the board play in ensuring consistency across the counties? We're going to start this question off with Cody Peterson.
Great. Thank you so much. The first thing I would say is we already do quite a lot of that. In general, we're not very heavily, we do have a taxpayers' rights advocate, but by and large, most of our 200 employees are not public facing per se. So a lot of what we do is through other agencies. We do letters to assessors, which we issue to all assessors, which clarify points. We get questions from assessors, and then we issue letters to assessor clarifying points. We already do our assessment practices survey, which goes through every year on an annual basis. We do those assessment practice surveys to identify deviations from what is appropriate. But I also say we can lead on technology. Martine mentioned technology. Some of the larger counties have already adopted some technological, like some counties are still doing wet signatures, particularly rural counties. There's 58 counties, and a lot of them are very small. They have a lot of difficulties implementing new best practices. What I would also say is one of the things that comes, we had a working group last year on Prop 19. We have a lot of challenges around Prop 19. It's very likely that there will ultimately be some legislative fixes or ballot measure fixes on Prop 19. It's very complicated for taxpayers. But the main things we can do is support our assessors. Number one, with assessment practice surveys and with letters to assessors. Number two, we need to engage in assessment appeals boards and improving them. We are one of the only agencies that can actually effectively do that. And we already have the power to do that. And ultimately, again, I would just focus, we need to focus on Prop 13 reform.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tom Umber, you're up next.
Thank you. There is a lot of confusion around Proposition 13. Its impact on older Californians versus younger Californians, I think, is significantly misunderstood. So making sure that Californians understand that their property can be reassessed, that their property can be assessed at its fair market value is critically important. I don't doubt that Elon Musk knows exactly, or his team knows exactly how to get their property reassessed. And I don't doubt that they use whatever political levers that they possibly can use to get the lowest possible valuation so they pay the least amount in taxes. I do worry about, though, the mom and pop folks who may not be aware that they actually can get their property reassessed when it goes down in value. Or maybe it's been reassessed wrong at the first instance. So one of the challenges is to make sure that that information is promulgated. The other challenge is making sure that those who are very much aware of the benefits of reducing the valuation by the county assessor, that those county assessors are closely scrutinized so they're doing it fairly for all taxpayers.
Thank you very much. Martine, you're next.
Thank you. This is a great question. And again, I got to tell you, this is exactly my everyday, is explaining to your average everyday taxpayer Proposition 13. And I have a history of advocacy. This is what I do. This is what I live and breathe. And so it is the job of the Board of Equalization to be educating our communities about Prop 13 and Prop 19. I got to tell you, has been decimating a lot of our generational wealth for our underserved communities. And I can give you the example of my parents who worked blue collar jobs day in and day out to purchase a home. And, God forbid the day they should pass, they pass the property on to me, and I don't know the Prop 19 specifications. That property is going to be reassessed, and I'm very likely going to have to sell it. And so there is a lot of education that needs to be going on in our communities. That is the absolute job of the Board of Equalization. The other thing that I'll talk to you about is just education on other propositions. Prop 8, for example. Earlier, somebody talked about when property values decrease, there's an opportunity to have your property taxes decreased. And so for our everyday working families, we need to be going out, educating folks, advocating for them, ensuring that they understand the rules of the game so that they're getting the same fair shot as everybody else. And I got to tell you, we got to increase our technology systems. We need to be going after some of these corporations who are using the loopholes, as we've talked about, the failure to submit the BOE 100 form. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Nelson Esparza, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of what role the board should play in ensuring consistency, I mean, that's really front and center for, one of the core functions of the Board of Equalization. And so I think the board as an agency should be very aggressive. And how we do that obviously comes in different forms and formats. I I'm a big believer as someone who's coming from the perspective of a municipal legislator, of being on the ground, engaging with residents, and ensuring that they are educated and informed. And when it comes to those education efforts, I mean, that takes resources. I mean, to have real outreach, real engagements with California residents. I mean, it is a lift, and it's something worthwhile that we ought to do. So, taking a look at our outreach plan, how we plan to educate people, keep them informed, and that's really half the battle. Because I think we all believe that our tax system should work for regular Californians, for regular residents, and not just our biggest corporations. We have to let them know that we are there to protect homeowners and protect renters, protect small businesses, ensure these assessors are correctly applying Prop 13 protections, and that we're preventing aggressive reassessments that hit those seniors and family farmers and small businesses. So it's really our job to support transparency so that taxpayers understand their assessments and appeal rights and such. That's my perspective on, again, it should be an aggressive role that the Board of Equalization played.
Thank you very much. Mike Gibson, you're up next.
Thank you very much. Again, good question. And so we have to play as the Board of Equalization a very aggressive role, and that is we have to make sure that people are educated, and also making sure that we support our assessors, making sure that people understand the role and what Proposition 13, Proposition 8 is all about. We have to make sure that our technology is such where people understand it, and making sure that our technology is updated. We have to make sure that the languages are such that people feel comfortable with the technology, with the language that meets the people right where they are, and they understand the rules. The rules are understandable, where they feel comfortable, and that we are accessible, that they can reach out to us, and if they have questions, that we're here to provide the answers. But we have to play a very aggressive role. And because people can be misguided, misunderstood, and hurt by it. And we need to make sure that we're in a position to provide the answers that people are seeking. And we need to make sure we're accessible.
Thank you very much. John Pimentel.
Thank you. This is a great question. I believe that Prop 13 is the law of the land, and it was put in place because working families were getting hammered by residential assessments and the related real estate taxes that needed to be paid. I'll do everything I can to defend that, but that's not really, I think, where the meat of the issue is. In the residential market, it's a reasonably liquid market. And so assessments and valuations are relatively well-known and well-documented. The real meat of where the BOE can make a difference for revenue generation and fairness in California is in the judgment calls that are made on unusual or large corporate assets. There, I think the opportunity would be to pursue legislative change and end things like the water's edge exemption. Assemblyman Damon Conley is carrying a bill that would change that. We're one of the few states, only 2 states in the union, who have that exemption opportunity. And that would generate $2 billion a year in revenue for our general fund coffers. I also think that we can be more aggressive in dealing with some of those unique assets like the Diablo nuclear power plant, which has been extended in its life, but under one assessment, because it is an old and fully depreciated asset, there's no property tax paid. We could use the income method in order to assess that asset for a proper tax and, again, generate more money.
Thank you. That's time. Thank you. Sally Lieber, please.
Thank you. Well, this is really the conundrum that so many taxpayers find themselves in, is understanding how the pieces of the system work together. Across counties, there is oftentimes disparate resources for helping taxpayers. The assessment appeals boards can vary greatly in their capacity And it's a tough time to go to the legislature to say that we need more money for certain pieces of the system, but it's something that has to happen. Um, an example of where counties can vary is on the Prop 8 disaster funding, and on reassessments related to that. Uh, Counties that are well resourced, like Los Angeles, the assessor there was able to just push out those reassessments that relieved some of the property tax burden on families who were impacted by the fire. Other counties don't have the resources and the staffing to do those kinds of things. And I think the most heartbreaking constituent cases are where someone does go through a one-way gate, such as relates to Prop 19, and they don't really fully understand what the impact of it is going to be on them.
Thank you so much.
Christine?
Thank you. And for the last question, the Board of Equalization has faced criticism in the past over governance, transparency, and internal accountability. How would you strengthen oversight of the BOE and the agencies it works with to restore and maintain public trust? And what concrete reforms would you support or oppose? We'll start off with Thomas Umberg.
Well, thank you. Again, I've spent a career focused on corruption, and the antidotes to corruption are accountability and transparency. Making sure that meetings are open, making sure that meetings are streamed, making sure that all of our finance expenditures are accountable. The enemy of transparency and accountability are those who benefit from a closed system, those who benefit from opaqueness in government. And those are the folks that have the money, that support candidates. Everyone in elective office raises money. Everyone in elective office that says that money has no bearing on decision-making is not right. They're not accurate. And that's why I'm going to ask you to help me remove the ban on public financing for general law cities. It's an initiative that's going to be on the ballot in November. I think it's one of the most important things we can do. One of the most important things we can do is to make sure that we do have a system, or at least the opportunity for a system that allows the public, that folks that don't have as loud of voices, corporations, to participate. So at the convention, I'd ask you to join me both in the race for Board of Equalization, but also in removing the ban on public financing in localities.
Thank you so much for that. Martine, you are up next.
So, as a San Ysidro school board member, that's the southernmost school district. My district has faced a history of issues, and the way that we've been able to resolve that going forward is transparency, transparency, and transparency. Making sure that our finances are transparent, making sure that our meetings are public meetings. And I got to tell you, as a taxpayer advocate, my number one rule is over communicate. And so when everybody knows what the rules are to the game before the game begins, people are more likely to be content with the outcome. So I would say we need to ensure that the public, the everyday Californians, are being over communicated with, not just by the Board of Equalization, but by their local county assessors. Ensure that, we are publicly letting everybody know when we're going to be meeting. And in addition to that, just working hand in hand with the public that has voted us and trusted us into office so that they understand. That's really what I have for that answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Nelson Esparza.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very important question. We should continue this rebuilding of trust and integrity in the BOE. I think folks in California pay attention to the work, still remember some of the unfortunate occurrences that have happened in the past. And we all agree the board should work for the public and not for special interests. That means we need to uphold strict ethics standards and transparency. And we got to support those reforms that separate tax collection from the political influence and really focus the board on its proper oversight role. In my current capacity, again, as a city council member, in the fifth largest city in the state, I chair our finance and audit committee. I chair our public financing authority of our EIFD. And these are values and mechanisms that we implement there to ensure that residents within our municipality understand and know that it's all open, that they're welcome to examine any component or aspect of it at any time. And so it's really kind of going above and beyond sort of what the minimum transparency requirements are, and reaching out to folks, as I noted earlier, to let them know what we're doing, what our functions are, and that they're welcome to participate and take a hard look at any aspect of the work that is occurring. Again, just putting in the resources and time to ensure that message is out there for your everyday Californian who may not be paying much attention to the BOE and its functions on a day-to-day basis. We know people are busy trying to feed their families, trying to put food on the table. And speaking of food on the table, my daughter's brought me a snack. Thank you, baby. But yes, that's my response. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Mike Gibson, you'll be up next.
Thank you very much for the question. First of all, I mean, I just think that we need to make sure that not only we keep the Board of Equalization transparent, keep the transparency and accountability there, the Bagley King, the Brown Act, but also not only for the board members, but for the entire agency, for the employees there as well. We need to make sure that there's transparency and accountability across the board, because we are, we have a public trust and their obligation to the public, not only as elected officials, but as public employees. There's a level of trust and there's a level of responsibility that we have as public employees, whether you're elected or not. We have responsibility because we are paid by taxpayers' money. And I think that there's a level of trust and a level of responsibility that the public have in us, whether you're an employee, elected or appointed. And we are a taxing agency. And so there is a level, again, of responsibility we have, and we should adhere to it. And there's something for that, and we should live up to that. And so we support those laws and those laws and that transparency.
Thank you so much. John Pimentel.
Thank you. Every elected official talks about being anti-corruption and fighting for transparency. But who's actually done it? I have. I had a problem at our community college district. I was sitting on the sidelines as a private sector developer of renewable energy projects when I read about corruption alleged at our community college district, and I ran into the fire. I ran for the board in order to turn it around. What we found was a chancellor who had given himself a golden parachute contract that paid him over $50,000 a month for doing nothing. I got that canceled. We then pursued civil litigation against the developers of projects who were allegedly paying kickbacks to the administration. I ended sole source contracting at our community college, and we hired an internal auditor to begin a comprehensive process of looking at our procedures and policies so that we could fix and prevent any sort of corruption from ever happening again. That auditor reports directly to the board, not to the administration. And so these are the kinds of things that you can talk about and say you're all for transparency, but it's who has the courage to actually get in and do it and demand that the administration operate transparently and effectively. I do.
Thank you very much. Sally Lieber, please.
Thank you. Well, I also have had that experience, and I know how difficult it really is. When I served in local government and I was vice mayor, and our mayor was committing extortion within City Hall, and I gave the direction to turn that individual into our local district attorney, and he ultimately ended up not only being removed from office, but banned from ever running again. And it was a very contentious and very painful process. I really give our state controller credit for being the leader of the turnaround board at the BOE. In 2019, there was a catastrophic and complete failure of governance there. It was an incredible dumpster fire that really impacted the people, the professional staff who work at the BOE, but also the services received by taxpayers. And I'm very, very intolerant of that. I think the proof in the pudding and the turnaround of the BOE has been that the assessors went shoulder to shoulder with us to say that we need an elected tax board in California to provide the best services to our constituents. And they see the value in the BOE as it currently exists. I currently chair the board and have placed really strong controls on not only how the staff relates, but how the board members act and what type of issues they bring up, and have zero tolerance.
Thank you very much. And Cody Patterson, you're next.
Thank you so much. First of all, absolutely up Senator Umberg's comments about money out of politics. Certainly the most demoralizing thing about being in politics broadly is the money in politics. Coming out of progressive and environmental organizing, you're always facing a mountain of money, and it's pretty sad. But sometimes you win in spite of it all. I have served at San Diego Unified, and when I came on, there was basically a culture in which you shared with the public what you were legally obligated to share. My colleagues and I have absolutely changed that culture to one in which we share everything except what we are legally obligated not to share. There is HIPAA and there's a lot of things that we can't share legally, but we tell people principals, we need to principals, supervisors, area superintendents, we share everything that we can share unless we are prevented from doing so. I would say, having spent 4.5 years in the Board of Equalization, it is a changed environment since Ting's bill in 2017. It is a very strict environment. We have very little control over the daily work of our staff, and we are currently chaired by Chair Lieber, and she is she's very careful about that. And what I would also say is go back to what the board does. The board actually, in relation to assessment appeals boards, it's training and certification. In relation to assessors, it's training for appraisers and certification. It's letters to assessors. We do actual oversight. That is what we do day in, day out. And finally, we are elected tax board. There is democratic oversight in our board. They want competent people, and they will boot you out of office if you are not competent. Yeah, thank you.
That is time. Thank you.
Thank you all. We will now move to closing statements, which will be 2 minutes each. And Martine, we will start with you.
1 second. I need to add everybody back in. One moment. That with 7 people, it's a bit much. So. Okay. Missing. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we got them all.
Got them. All right, so go ahead. We've got Martine going.
Thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of this conversation. At its core, public service is about responsibility, the responsibility to listen, to educate, and to stand up for people who are often left navigating complex systems on their own. Everything I've done as taxpayer advocate and as a school board trustee and as a community leader has been guided by one principle. People are the strongest when they understand their rights and know someone is willing to fight for them. I've worked with homeowners trying to stay in their homes, with veterans who earned benefits they didn't know they had access to, and with unhoused neighbors looking for a way back into stability. In each case, progress came not from politics, but from persistence, fairness, and showing up. The State Board of Equalization should reflect those same values. It should educate the public, correct inequities, and hold systems accountable when they fall short. I believe it can, and I believe it must. I'm not running to advance my political career. I'm running because of my life story, my professional experience, and my values. all point to the same conclusion. Government works best when we put its people first. Democrats have always stood up for economic justice, equity, and opportunity. When elected, I will bring those values to the State Board of Equalization every single day, educating the public, advocating for fairness, and fighting for Californians who deserve a system that works for them. I would be honored to earn your support. Thank you so much. Y si se puede. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Nelson Esparza, you're up next for your closing statement.
Yes, again, thank you again to the RDs for this opportunity. It's been really great to join you all here this morning, and looking forward to seeing everyone here at a convention in just a few weeks. You've heard from a number of folks today running for our fiscal offices here in our great state, and really just want to emphasize how critical and how important it is that we have Democrats in these positions, looking out for working people and protecting our most marginalized communities, no matter how technical of a scope or format that may come in. Excuse me. So, like any big statewide race, it takes all of us coming together, it takes all of us staying engaged, and really taking the fight to the GOP, especially out in my inland California district, where we need to bring the full force of our party to nudge this particular seat from purple to blue. And as I noted earlier, as a member of the State Board of Equalization, I'll join my Democratic colleagues to fight for fair and consistent property taxes, protect homeowners, renters, small businesses, and really ensure that large corporations are paying their fair share. I believe that taxpayers deserve transparent assessments and really an honest appeals process, and a board that continues to put integrity first. And so, the focus really is simple. It's fair taxes, honest oversight, and ultimately what that trickles down to is strong local communities. And so I genuinely hope to earn your support at the convention in a few weeks and ultimately on your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Gibson.
First of all, my mother always said, baby, if anybody does anything, simply say thank you. So I want to say thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to come before you. I'm grateful to be able to see all of you in a few weeks. I'm asking you to please join teachers, firefighters, law enforcement, labor, and community in supporting me. I've been endorsed by the incumbent, Mr. Tony Vasquez, who's also endorsed me. 4 of the county board of supervisors in the county of Los Angeles, who's endorsed my candidacy, also controller Malia Cohen, and also State Treasurer Fiona Ma has also endorsed me. My speaker has also endorsed me, Speaker Robert Rivas. 2/3 of the state Senate, 2/3 of the state colleagues of mine, the state assembly has endorsed me. A whole host of organized labor has endorsed me. I'm very grateful for that. I have done the work. As a former state Democratic caucus chair, the longest serving Democratic caucus chair in the state's history, who have flipped red seats into purple seats. I have done the work, and I want to be your next State Board of Equalization board member representing District 3. I've worked at the Board of Equalization. I know the job. I'm ready for the task. I want to go back to doing the work that I was doing before I was elected to the California State Assembly. I did the job. I know the job. I want to go back there, but I also have some work to be finished. I want to close the loophole in corporate taxes. I want to also deal with the underground economy to making sure the taxpayers of California get what they need. So I need your help in order to do that. I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks. Mike Gibson for Board of Equalization, District 3. Thank you so very much and have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Mike Gibson. Next up, John Pimentel, your 2-minute closing.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the chance to talk to delegates statewide. It's a great honor to stand for public office. In fact, I come from a working family. I, with the help of our great state, was given an opportunity to change the trajectory of my life through community college and the University of California. That put me on a track that allowed me to then go out and serve our state with distinction as the Deputy Secretary for Transportation, where I operated in a very entrepreneurial and creative way to change how state government worked in the small area that I worked within. I then went on to build $1.5 billion worth of renewable energy projects in California using private sector investment. And those projects saved millions for some of our largest employers and enabled them to stay and keep their jobs in California. I turned around the community college district in my area, as I described previously, in a major way to create a culture of transparency and effectiveness that did not exist before. And that responsibility I take very seriously. I'm not a professional politician. I could be doing plenty of other things with my time, but I want to bring my orientation for action, change, and creativity to the Board of Equalization. If you want more of the same, you should just not vote for me. If you want to see things operate differently, creatively, and do more, then vote for me. Our party is at a crossroads. We need to do more than just protest. We need to put practical, common sense policies on the table that reduce the cost of living in California. If you agree with that, please support me at the convention in a couple of weeks. I'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sally Lieber, you're up for your 2-minute closing.
Thank you so much. I want to thank the regional directors for providing this forum. It's very, very helpful. I look forward to seeing everyone at convention. As I mentioned, I have been a lifelong Democrat. I have never been a member of another party. I've never attempted to form a third party out of a horror of the Democratic Party. I've never given to Republicans to defeat Democrats. I am a Democrat that is the flag that we carry in doing good and noble things that need to be done for California. I'm a corporate-free candidate. I am able to make decisions on the BOE from the perspective of not receiving corporate funds. My goal is to make it easier for families to live in California, to be able to thrive and continue to be in California, and especially working families. I'm not focused on trying to take the sales tax off of a restaurant meal at the French Laundry. I'm focused on getting tax credits out to veterans and to foster youth and to the working families in our communities and protecting local services, including firefighting and our local serving nonprofits. And I see that my competitor finds it very funny, but there are a lot of needs within working families in California, and they're not particularly funny or easy to live with. And those are the folks that I am very, very focused on serving. I would be honored to continue on the board. I am the only person currently serving on the board that has the opportunity to continue into the new board. And I'm leading the board in a strong way this year and look forward to continue to do so.
Thank you so much. Cody Pedersen, you're up next with your 2-minute closing.
Thank you so much. And thanks for the opportunity. And I'm glad we got an opportunity to field some questions. This is a complicated board, and some would say obscure. So it's a pleasure for me to actually be able to talk about what it does. And often I'm not afforded that opportunity. I would be honored to obtain your endorsement and your support at the convention. I've been in your shoes. I've come up through the party like many of you. I've stood before city councils and in the state legislature advocating for progressive and environmental policies. I didn't mention it, but I started way back in the day in the Clinton administration as a lowly intern, which is its own weird experience. I have used my political time over the last decade to leverage what little power I have had, and sometimes modest power, to obtain dramatic improvements in the lives of working people. At the Democrats for Environmental Action, at San Diego Unified, when I was at the county as a senior advisor, and with your support at BOE. The reality is there are two ways this board is going to impact your life. We haven't talked about housing much, but the Board of Equalization is the agency which oversees certification for the welfare exemption. My time at San Diego Unified, we have not talked, we have done. We are the most aggressive public agency, small public agency in the country on education, workforce, housing. 2,497 units awarded in the last month alone, 2,820 over the last 2 years. My hope is that we can address the inequality in this country through housing. And the other way is ultimately in being able to tell the constituents that, yes, we can do a split roll on property tax. We can preserve the residential side of Prop 13, but we can actually recoup for the public the 2/3 of revenue that's lost to industrial and commercial property every year. And we can fund education, and we can fund social services, and we can attack inequality in this country and improve the efficiency and effectiveness of government. Thank you so much, Cody Pedersen. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Tom Umber, you'll now have your 2-minute closing.
Well, thank you, Corey, and thank you, all of you who are listening in. The Board of Equalization handles complex issues, and we, either those who are watching or those who are running, can't exactly know what issues we're going to be faced with. But here's what I would suggest that we do in evaluating candidates. We look at 4 criteria. 1, the skill set they bring to the office. 2, the values that they hold. 3, the ability to win. And 4, the courage to basically stand up for those values. In terms of skill sets, a lot of folks have talked about fighting corruption. I am certain I'm the only person running for statewide office who's put someone in prison, more than one, for corruption, who's had bodyguards because there's been legitimate threats upon their life because of their fight against corruption. Number 2, values. You know my values. I've been in the state Senate. I've been in the state assembly. You've seen my values. You've seen my fight against Donald Trump, introducing the No Kings legislation, fighting on a daily basis for California against this administration. Shout out to Cody, by the way, for standing up to remove the ban on public financing. The ability to win. I am also certain I'm the only person running for statewide office who's beaten 2 incumbent Republicans. This is a seat that is historically held by Republicans. I plan to keep in the Democratic column. And then the courage to stand up for your values, whether it's with respect to banning public financing, or I'll go back and give you a story from 2005 when Sally Lieber was my seatmate, and that was in connection with same-sex marriage and making sure that those couples who love each other can marry. I was the 41st vote in a very conservative district. I lost my next election largely based on that vote. I'm proud today of that vote among all those I've cast. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and thank you for joining us, and thank you to everybody for hanging in. We will now move to our last segment. This is for candidates for treasurer. This will be a 2-minute open, a 2-minute close, 90 seconds for responses to the questions. We will start with the 2-minute open with Antonio Vasquez.
Before we get started on that, I want to make a quick note. We need to finish removing the last person here from our spotlight. Hold on. So somebody could please remove, there we go. So the for the can we remove this candidate from spotlight?
Yeah, they're off.
Okay. So the for BOE, there's a difference in how we elect them this time. So the for BOE, we're actually going to be voting for the person that represents us. Previously, at previous endorsements, we actually voted for all of the candidates for BOE, but I wanted to point out that you're actually only voting for the candidate that will represent you. So thank you for that, and we'll be moving on to those opening statements. Thank you.
Okay. You ready with the timer? Okay, so we will begin with Antonio Vasquez.
Good afternoon, Democrats. My name is Tony Vasquez. You're one of your current constitutional officers representing the 3rd District on the Board of Equalization. My district consists of the whole county of Los Angeles, but I started my political career back in the 90s, first on the Santa Monica City Council, and then later became the mayor of Santa Monica in 2015. And in 2018 is when I got involved with the election to get elected to the State Board of Equalization. And as was mentioned, I think earlier from some of the other candidates that are running for the Board of Equalization, when I got up to the Board of Equalization, one of my first tasks was to bring back the transparency and the credibility to the board, because they were trying to eliminate the board. And I couldn't understand why you'd want to eliminate a elected body that represents the taxpayers. And in that process, we were all new, all four of us at the time. The only one that had any experience on the board was our controller at that time, Betty Yee, and she was helpful in terms of helping us in the reorg. And as a result of that, many of us had to take leadership roles right at the beginning. I became the vice chair my first year. Second year, I became the chair. And as the chair, I began the process of looking at what we can do to improve and actually give it more authority, even though our focus now, or at that time was, and it still is just property tax. We zeroed in on that and created opportunities for folks to talk about tax credits, about exemptions. And there's a couple of bills that are be coming up here soon along those areas of improving it. And hopefully with your support and the support of the legislators, we'll change that moving forward. But I'm looking forward to the questions and the opportunity to share why I'm running for treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll move over to Eleni Kounalakis for your opening statement.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me and for everyone for being here. I'm Eleni Kounalakis. I'm the Lieutenant Governor of California, the 50th Lieutenant Governor and the first woman elected to the position. I'm the daughter of an immigrant who started as a farm worker and worked his way through school as a waiter in the governor's mansion. I am running for treasurer because I believe it is the best way that I can continue to serve the people of our state, and I will bring decades of experience and expertise in finance, investment, housing, and construction to this office. If elected, I will focus on three priorities. First and foremost, building more housing and building the infrastructure that goes along with it. The Treasurer's Office has a very important role to play in delivering more housing as the chair of the TCAC and the CIDLAC, which are the Affordable Housing Tax Credit programs for the state. Second, pensions. The treasurer sits on CalPERS and CalSTRS, and if elected, I will work hard to protect the hard-earned pensions of California's teachers and public employees. I am proud to have the trust and the endorsement of the California Teachers Association and the California Federation of Teachers in this work. Finally, I will focus on the affordability crisis as I have as Lieutenant Governor. The Treasurer's Office runs extremely important and robust programs that help support students and kids, people with disabilities, veterans, and many others. And the better run the programs are, the more funds go directly to the programs that they fund and less in paying fees and other costs associated with managing those monies. Finally, I have used the office of the Lieutenant Governor as a bully pulpit to fight Donald Trump. I will continue to do that as your state treasurer. And I'm very happy to have the endorsement of our two U.S. Senators, Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff, who I have worked with to push back against the evil, corrosive, and simply cruel anti-immigrant and other horrible policies of the Trump administration. But I also will be running a positive campaign when it comes to putting forward my qualifications for this position. Thank you.
And next up is Ana Caballero.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you all today. I am Ana Caballero. I'm currently serving as a state senator, and I'm running for the treasurer because it is, in my mind, the second most important constitutional officer behind the governor in the state of California. As you know, the treasurer is responsible for protecting public dollars, pensions, schools, hospitals, healthcare investments, and those investments can happen through bonds or through tax credits. But the awarding of that money to projects can create really important, good union jobs. But more importantly, the treasurer can take on Trump in ways that are critically important. The treasurer has the ability to Trump-proof the state of California so that we're using the power of investment to create a strong economy, a circular economy that focuses on our biggest needs, whether it's creating affordable housing through tax credits, whether it is bonds to help build our healthcare system more robust. I have personal experience with a hospital closing in my district that was absolutely devastating, and the resources are currently in the treasurer's office, as well as the ability to bring in good jobs around good clean energy projects. I'm a fighter. I'm from a copper mining community, so I know blue collar issues. My family were all in the trades. And I ran my own business representing farm workers because I was inspired by the farm worker movement. I served as a mayor. I balanced budgets. I increased services in a blue collar community. And I worked for Governor Brown as a cabinet member, where I had a budget in my agency of $27 billion and had oversight of 16,000 state employees. Thank you very much, and I look forward to having more of a discussion about what I intend to do.
You will, as our question segment is now coming up. As a reminder, you have 90 seconds to respond. The questions will be put in the chat in case you miss them when they're read to you, and Melissa will kick us off with the first question.
All right, thank you guys so much for being here. The first question is that California relies heavily on bond financing for schools, housing, climate resilience, and infrastructure. How would you decide what projects deserve new debt, and what guardrails would you use to avoid saddling future generations with unsustainable obligations? To start us off, the first person who will be answering this question is Eleni Kounalakis.
Well, thank you very much for your question, Melissa. I believe that Fiona Ma has done a very good job in balancing the needs of the state and our bond financing and making sure that we are prioritizing appropriately. It is true, California has about $1 trillion in debt. At the same time, our bond rating is the highest that it has been since the Great Recession. I think that Governor Newsom and Fiona Ma, Malia Cohen really deserve a lot of credit for that. It could still be higher. So one of the things that I would like to do is advocate to improve the bond rating, because my calculation is that we would save about $500 million a year on costs of financing if we have a higher bond rating. Now, within that, the programs and the financing that we do, it is just absolutely vast and touches every segment of society. But as I've said before, I believe we must build more housing. To build more housing, we have to build the infrastructure that supports the housing, the infrastructure for clean energy, the infrastructure for water, the infrastructure for roadways to continue to repair them. So my priority would be to focus on the built environment, because we need to improve the backbone infrastructure of our state. I mentioned that my dad worked in the governor's mansion. That was when Pat Brown was governor. I think we need a Pat Brown 2.0, and the treasurer has the ability and the power to use our bond financing to truly improve the built environment. And on top of that, be able to provide the millions more housing units that we need. Thank you.
So much. Ana Caballero, you're next.
Thank you very much. Well, the reality of the situation is that it takes working with the legislature as well as the governor to be able to go out to the public and to pass bonds that reflect the priorities of the state of California. I have represented over the years, both in the Assembly and the Senate, communities where there has been a huge lack of investment, that are desperate for affordable housing, that are desperate for infrastructure, and that are desperate to be able to be part of the new economy that will provide the jobs that are desperately needed. Those jobs, when people work, they pay taxes. And when they pay taxes, that improves the economic situation of the state. And the state is fluctuating between the fourth and the fifth largest economy in the world. And we've slipped because of actions taken by the Trump administration, whether it's been the fluctuating market, whether it's been tariffs, whether it's been the Fed, all of that has hurt California. So there's an opportunity to use our bond financing in a way that benefits all communities, all people, in particular working folks. But the other part of it is that our educational system does an excellent job of producing new technologies, and that new technology benefits the budget of the state of California. What that means is when they go public, that they create revenue that we then can use to continue to do the infrastructure we need.
Antonio Vasquez, you're up next.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. And I agree with most of the things that were said by my colleagues, candidates on this issue. But the one thing that I think we're forgetting and we're not mentioning, when I was the mayor of Santa Monica, we had like AAA ratings. And I know it's very important that we protect that, especially as we go out for whether it's new construction bonds or bonds for our schools, or for our cities moving forward, and the climate, the big issue. And I don't know if people understand, but the treasurer sits on several commissions and committees. But I think the two most powerful ones are the two pension funds, CalPERS and CalSTRS. CalPERS is up to $550 billion. CalSTRS, I believe, is the largest educational pension fund in the world at $375 billion. And I don't know if people understand, that's almost $1 trillion. We invest less than 2% of that in California. It's all leaving the state and the country. Imagine if we were to double that in California, what you could do with an additional 2% of $1 trillion, which would be almost like a $16 billion that you could use for building more true affordable housing, helping our educational institutions, and bringing down the health costs in California. Our next generation, as the question mentions, what are we going to do for the next generation?
Thank you so much. That's time.
Thank you. Then up next, the treasurer plays a role in setting investment priorities that reflect California's values. How would you approach environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, considerations, and where do you draw the line between fiduciary responsibilities and policy-driven investings? First off, we'll have with Ana Caballero.
Thank you very much for that question. So California has been the leader in climate adaptation, and we need to continue to be that leader. And so the investments that come out of the Treasurer's office become critically important in making sure that we're taking the new technology that we are investing in solutions, but also that we remove the barriers that keep revenue, money, investment dollars, private investment dollars out of the state, whether it's looking at capturing carbon and sequestering it permanently, creating biogases that allow us to really make major investments that will reduce truck pollution and air pollution, airplane pollution, and maritime pollution. We have the technology here in the state of California because our universities are producing some very, very bright students, and that can benefit the state of California. It can benefit us economically, and show the world that we are continue to be the leaders. So the Treasurer's Office has the ability to make innovative and creative solutions possible. And I'm working on a bill right now to be able to manifest that in a way that allows us to do public-private partnerships and to be able to make the investment in communities that desperately need good green jobs.
That's time. And next up, Antonio Vasquez.
Thank you for that question. I think we need to do a better job of what we're doing in terms of investing, especially as we're talking about, the environment and how we're going to clean things up. The goal is to move away from fossil fuels by 2030, but we don't have the infrastructure, and we need to begin to invest more in that. I was just asked to speak last month in Sacramento at a hydrogen conference that was dealing with hydrogen as an alternative energy. And as I'm talking to folks and listening to especially both folks on the side of the hydrogen side and also those that were there representing fossil fuels, many of these good paying jobs right now that are in the state of California, if we don't prepare and invest today, it's going to be difficult. We're going to lose a lot of good jobs to the industry that are going to be there taking the lowest bid in many cases and providing alternative fuels without the infrastructure in place. You just can't flip from one to the other without preparing for it. So I'm hoping as a treasurer, we'll begin to at least have some influence in investing and making sure that our priorities are set right. So in 2030, we'll be prepared and ready to make that transition. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. Eleni Kounalakis.
Thank you so much. I just think that we're in a situation right now where we have to put healthcare at the top of every single agenda, including the agenda of the treasurer's office. So the state treasurer oversees something called the California Health Facilities Financing Authority. We need to invest more into this authority so that we can be there as Trump's horrific policies are pulling back the number of Californians who have health insurance. Our hospitals are struggling and they're going to continue to struggle. So I will be prioritizing the oversight of this authority and the additional funding so that we can go help support these hospitals who are at risk of closing because of the number of people who are at risk of losing their health care. Beyond that, I think it's extremely important we continue to invest in education. We have a $4 trillion economy. We are actually back now as the fourth largest economy in the world. I believe this comes from investment in our people, investment in our kids, in education, in higher education. In terms of investment in the transition to clean energy, you know, the budget when the governor came into office was just over $200 billion. It is now almost $350 billion. California has proven again and again our commitment to investing in tax credit, innovation programming in order to transition to a fossil-free energy future. And I will continue to invest in that as well.
Melissa?
Thank you so much for your answers to the previous question. The next question is that many Californians are unaware of what the state treasurer actually does or how decisions affect them. What concrete steps would you take to increase transparency, improve public understanding, and ensure accountability in the treasurer's office? The first person who will have the opportunity to answer this question is Antonio Vasquez.
Thank you for that question. You know, I will do what I did when I came up as your constitutional officer for the Board of Equalization. When I got up there to the Board of Equalization, many folks were asking, you know, what does the Board of Equalization do? So one of the things I did is I began as the chair to host hearings, and we invited all the different partners and stakeholders to these public hearings so that, one, they could understand the process and what, in fact, we do for the taxpayer. That's what I would take that experience to the treasurer's role, because you're right. When I talk to folks, your average person on the street, they don't know what the treasurer does. They don't understand the power that it has. And like I mentioned earlier, I think we need to do a better job of investing in California. You know, we're hearing, and I think somebody mentioned it already, you know, California is the fourth largest economy in the world. And yet we're only investing less than 2% of those two large pension funds in California. This cannot be a bad investment to invest more in California. And that's going to be my goal. But to do that, I will take it to the voters and to the taxpayers by creating and opening up these hearings so we can have some dialogue and participation from all the folks in the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eleni Kounalakis is next.
Well, thank you so much for this. You know, when I ran for lieutenant governor several years ago, the media was pretty tough on me. And they said, why would anyone want to be lieutenant governor? It doesn't do anything. And I was committed that in my time as lieutenant governor, I would make sure that people knew who the lieutenant governor does, what she does. And now the next crop of candidates are coming up, and you'll notice nobody says that about the office anymore. I'm going to use the same kind of energy and positivity and outreach and hard work to get out there among Californians and let them know about these programs, particularly the excellent programs that they should all know about and taking advantage of. My favorite one, and I actually, even before I thought I would be running for this office, was helping Fiona Ma in it, has to do with our kids. The Cal Kids program, seeded with almost $2 billion by the governor, is opening savings accounts and educational accounts for every single baby born in the state of California. It happens automatically, but only about 20% of the families know that their kids have these accounts that have been opened for them by the state and seed funding put in place. So I will be out there using the bully pulpit of the office to talk about the programs that the treasurer does to advocate for our kids, affordability, education, investment in infrastructure, clean energy, our seniors, our people with disabilities and veterans, all of whom have programs that they benefit from or can benefit from the treasurer's office.
Good timing. Anna Caballero, please.
So I'm an organizer at heart. I really love organizing groups of people to talk about how our government works, particularly in the communities that I've represented that are heavy immigrant and asylum seeker communities. And so over the years, what I've done to do outreach to the community has held these meetings where you invite people to come and have a conversation. And now as a legislator, I can do it through a hearing process or going out and setting up but it's much more important nowadays to utilize all modes of communication, whether that's social media or in person. And I've spent a lot of time organizing house meetings and getting people together to talk about what's important to you. What changes would you like to see from government? And you have the right to petition government and insist that it be better. And so I started a Young Legislators program where we're educating high school students about government, how it works, and how they can participate and have their voices heard. If you'd like to see what the success of that program is, you can go to my Senate website and we have videos there. And it was so successful that the adults in the community started saying, well, we want something for adults as well. And so we started an adult program. And you can see that on the website at all. People speaking in their own voices about how important it is to have information about how government works. So there are programs in the Treasurer's Office that people have no clue about. Cal Savers and Cal Kids, for example.
Thank you so much.
Christine?
Thank you so much again for everybody joining us tonight. So this is our last question. California's pension obligations and long-term liabilities continue to shape the state fiscal's future. What specific strategies would you pursue to strengthen pension sustainability while protecting taxpayers and public employees? We'll start off with Eleni Kolanakis.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad that you asked this because it is a fact that we have an unfunded pension liability, even though we have enormously high returns over the last couple of years. CalPERS returned over 11% last year. It's fantastic. But overall, in the ups and downs of the California economy, it's not enough. And so I have very concrete plans of how I believe that we can fix this. It starts with raising the GAN limit. The governor has been talking about this. It is an artificial constraint on the amount in taxes that the government, the governor, and the legislature can spend. We need to raise the GAN limit. Secondly, we have to raise the amount of funds that can go into our rainy day fund. Currently, it's capped at 10%. I'm going to advocate, and the governor has already been advocating, to increase that to 20%. So there are things that we can do. I mentioned we have a $4 trillion economy. We have the resources to be able to fix this problem. It takes someone to advocate, to roll up her sleeves, and to do the work. And I also want to say that it's very important on Person Stirs that we continue to advocate for our values. That means that we should not be investing in the kinds of private equity programs where they come in and they fire everyone. We have to have labor standards associated with those investments and our environmental standards as well. And that's what I will do if I'm elected treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lenny. Anna Caballero, you're up next.
Thank you. Well, the legislature has had a number of discussions with the governor over raising the GAN limit and also the rainy day fund. These are ballot measures that were passed, and it requires legislators arriving at an agreement with the governor and then putting it before the public in order to be able to change those. It can't be done just with the legislature. It's going to take going to the voters, and that means education and explaining exactly what those changes would mean and how it would impact the public. But apart from that, one of the problems that the pension fund faces, and some of it was taken care of in the last administration, was the pension spiking that happens, that drives up the cost of obligations of the pensions. And the pension spiking happens at the highest executive level. It's not fair. It prejudices the lower paid public employees that have been working for years and that deserve to have a secure retirement program, and that it be fully funded for them. So we need to take a look at some of the pension spiking that may be continuing to happen and looking at the highest executives. There are some communities where their city managers and their county administrators are making way more than their lowest paid employees, number one, and way more than the median income can support. And that's unsustainable. Thank you.
Antonio Vasquez, please.
Well, thank you for the question. And once again, I agree with what my colleagues had just mentioned. The only thing I would add is that I think we need to do a better job on the pension side in terms of investing more in California. Like I had mentioned, I think if we were just even to double the investment, currently, like I said, the two largest pension funds, we're currently only investing less than 2% in California. Imagine if you doubled that, what you could do to help many of the retirees and their kids with creating and investing in true affordable housing and providing more assistance with our educational institutions to help them be better funded, as well as to help reduce the health costs, health in the health priorities, and I should say the premiums for these folks, these young professionals that are getting into their young careers. The health to have full coverage is very expensive. And I think we just need to do a better job of taking those pension funds and investing them here in California. I think we could do a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. We're now going to move to closing statements. You'll have 2 minutes each, and we'll start with Ana Caballero.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to join you today. Let me just say that I've spent my life working both as an attorney and also as an elected official, empowering communities, going out and having conversations about government, how it should work, and what kind of participation we need from the public in order to make good decisions. And that has really created an opportunity for me to be able to mentor and help people to follow me, to come up behind me. It's one of the reasons that the speaker is endorsing me and has supported me so heavily, is because he was one of the staff employees that I worked with and that learned a lot about about good governance, balancing budgets, and making sure that you're listening to constituents. I have had nothing handed to me. I've had to work really hard to prove that I have the information that's needed to make good decisions, that I'm capable of handling the situation, and that I can help balance budgets and bring new resources to communities that have been severely under-resourced. I see the Treasurer's Office as an opportunity to continue that work. I see the Treasurer's Office as a critically important tool to be able to Trump-proof this state and to create an opportunity for us to continue to be successful and yet to solve some of the problems that we have, some of the issues that have been intractable, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's helping hospitals, whether it's fixing schools so that they are so that we can be proud of them and that they function well as schools. All of that is in the purview of the Treasurer's Office. So I'm here today to ask for your support. I'm here today to say that I have the ability to do the grassroots organizing that we need to do, and that we can gain back the confidence of working folks. Thank you.
And then next up will be Antonio Vasquez for your closing statement.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the regional directors that put this thing together. Really appreciate it. As a lifelong Democrat, I really wanted to thank the Democratic Party because if it wasn't for the Democratic Party when I first ran my first campaign back in the early 90s, I would have never gotten elected and never gone this far, both on the city council, the mayor, and when I ran for the BOE. And it's with that experience, especially when I got to the Board of Equalization as one of your constitutional officers, I realized the power that we have and what we can do to change and improve the situation for many of our fellow Americans here in California. And as a result of that, one of the things that really struck me, and I mentioned it earlier, is just the power that I think the treasurer could do. And I don't think the treasurer's role has been really used to its full extent. And I'm running for the treasurer because this is what I really want to do. I'm not using running for the treasurer as a stepping stone for a higher office. At this stage of my life, this is where I'm going to end. And that's why I think I have a lot of support from my local elected officials, my senator, my assembly member. Many of the Board of Supervisors in Southern California have jumped on board, and I'm looking forward to making sure that you all give me consideration, and I would love to have your support at the convention coming up in San Francisco in a couple of weeks. And with that, just really appreciate the time to be with you. And if you have any questions, you're please welcome. Get onto my website and you can take a look at it and you can see what's happening, not only with my experience here with the BOE, but what I'm looking to do as your next treasurer for the California. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And for their final closing statement, Eleni Kounalakis, please.
Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening in and for being here. I have had an incredible experience in California, living the California dream. My grandmother in Greece never learned to read or write. She never left the village where she was born. And I had the opportunity to be president of our family business, to be an Obama ambassador, and to serve as lieutenant governor. And I have fought my whole life so that the pathway to the American dream stays open for everyone else. That's why right after I got my master's in business administration, I went to work at the California Democratic Party as an organizer. I was there in 1992 when we had a historic election, and I have never stopped participating and organizing. I am running for this office ultimately because of two very important reasons. One, we have a massive affordability crisis in this state, and I know I bring the right tools to this office to be able to tackle it, starting with housing and infrastructure, education, healthcare, all of these things that we've been talking about. And then secondly, we need everyone in statewide office to be working every day to fight back against this horrible, evil, cruel administration that is coming after us and coming after California and Californians. As a member of the Obama administration, I was United States ambassador to Hungary. I tangled with Viktor Orban constantly. I know what dictators do, and I know how to fight back. And then finally, I'm so honored to have the endorsement of the governor and Malia Cohen, Fiona Ma, both of our U.S. senators. But I also have support of labor. I have the California Teachers Association and Federation of Teachers. I have the Teamsters. I have the NUHW and Unite Here Local 11. So I hope to have all of your support, and I hope to see you at convention in San Francisco.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So that concludes our program. We want to thank all of the candidates today that participated. Thank you to everybody watching on YouTube. And special thanks to my director colleagues for working on and hosting this presentation today. Please remember to join us on February 7th and February 14th for additional candidate forums. And everybody enjoy your weekend. Thanks for hanging in there with us.
Great job, team.
Is YouTube stop streaming? Nope, you're muted, Jeff. Jeff, you're muted, unless you're talking to yourself.
Yeah, it's still streaming. Hold on.